Ooh, hello everybody. How are we doing today? I hope everybody's I'm doing great. It is, I think I heard thunder outside, which is, it's okay. I don't mind. We can have a little bit of a storm, but last time it stormed really bad, I lost power. And you know what? I really don't want that to happen to me. That does not sound in any way good. I guess as it is. If we do lose power, you'll know real fast because it'll just cut right out. I'll be like in the middle of a sentence and it'll just be like gone. So I'll try to get back as soon as I can, but I'll definitely update everybody on the Discord because, it's there. But yeah, today we have a lot of content, at least these two for the beginning content about Gen Alpha. I've been watching a lot of Casey Simpson videos. I actually really like his content. It's really nice. It's really informative, and I think it's very well put together. For those of you who don't know, Casey Simpson is an old child actor, an old child actor. He is a child actor who has grown into having a YouTube channel, and he did some stuff, I think, on either Disney Channel or Nickelodeon. I don't really remember, but he's pretty cool. You're making a rocket right now. My area has had some bad storms. No worries. I feel that, but you're making a rocket. What do you mean by that? Like, one that you can launch, like a small thing, or you're like actually working on a rocket for like other types of things. I'm assuming it's like a model, but that's awesome. By the way, welcome. I hope everything is going well for you. So anyway, like I said, I've been watching a lot of Casey Simpson stuff. So I figured, well, why don't we go ahead and check in on how Gen Alpha is doing. Spoiler alert, it's not good. It is not good in the slightest. So with that, we're going to get right into this video from, I don't know how to pronounce this, but I think it's Shira on the Wall. I actually just had them come across my desk, and it seemed like an interesting video, so we're going to share that today, and we're going to react to it. All right, everybody.
My students can't.
Oh, Jesus. All right, let me know if it's too loud. You know the deal.
Can't read. They're not recognizing letters. They're not recognizing letter sounds.
6, 7, 6, 7.
Attention.
This is depressing to watch. I'm already depressed. I'm not even checking those 7 seconds in. It's a model. I can launch it. Gotta wait for a clear day to launch it. We had some heavy rain over here, but nothing too bad or power threatening. Awesome. Well, it's nice that you're able to get that. Wait. Oh, okay. Well, they're two different people. I was like, wait, the same name, purple. My eyes just like bugged out for a second. But that's awesome that you're working on a model rocket. I hope it goes well. And nice for the not having power threatening. Like I said, my power gets threatened by like just the slightest of wind, and it makes me so upset. But I'm glad everything's working out over there. All right.
These bands are weaning because everything is high stimulation. They can just scroll, watch less than a minute.
We are in a crisis mode in American schools.
I'm going to turn that down just a little bit for myself.
The kids can't read, write, or remember anything.
By the way, Master Builder, I know you mentioned last stream that you have interest in music, and I believe also, not only that, but we got another musical person in our mod, Munstry. How does it make you feel that you see the notes being taught with this Gen Alpha brain rot? Oh my god, I want to leave because of the 6-7, but I'll stay. Don't worry, I completely understand. You're in like company with that.
Or use their imaginations, and the teachers are wondering why.
It's killing me already.
So apparently Gen Alpha can't read, write, or spell because learning 6-7 is apparently more important than reading at grade level.
No, don't do it.
Oh my god, we are so doomed.
We're doomed. Oh my god, I can't stand it.
Every single time I open TikTok recently, I feel like it's another teacher talking about how far behind Gen Alpha students really are and how quickly it's getting worse.
The worst part is it's not even just Gen Alpha, because like the studies have been like showing that it's not just them. It's literally 50% of the population, around approximate, of adults can't even read on a 6th grade level, who are raising these children as well. So that's like alarming. Oh, you play the trombone, and I hated that so much. Oh, that's so sad. I played a few musical instruments in my day, and I kind of want to get back into it, but like at this point I've got so many things going on in my life, I don't think I can spare an hour, even an hour a week in order to sit down and go back into music. But at least I'm a little literate on instruments.
I don't understand why they're not stressing to
It
y'all
is
how
Jover,
bad
though.
it is. I'm not even trying to be funny, but these kids are, I teach 7th grade, they are still performing on the 4th grade level.
I teach 8th
I can't
grade
believe it.
history, and I have 110-ish students. 2 of them are reading on grade level.
I could probably count on one hand how many kids are actually performing on their grade level.
18 of them are at a kindergarten level. 55 of those students are between a 2nd and 4th grade level. That's a lot of them.
Now, at this
By the way, these people are going to grow up to vote.
point, you'd hope that these teachers are exaggerating, or that it's just a few bad classrooms with a few bad students.
You played the trumpet personally?
It's
Stopped when you
not.
got braces?
and this family came
Never
up to
got
the bar
back
to
into
order
it?
their food.
Did you stop because of the braces were having a hard time with the way that the mouthpiece interacted with your braces? Because I know a lot of people who go through like having braces like that have a hard time with the metal going against their against the other metal, so to speak. So I can understand that. That's really painful. I know that's very painful for people. What's going on, people? Well, we're looking into some of the interesting developments in Generation Alpha and how they can't read. And also talking about music, surprisingly enough.
One of the kids, who's about 8
Welcome
or 9
around,
years
welcome
old,
around.
asked what flavor of Dippin' Dots we had, so I handed her a menu. This way she could read the flavors, and I was going to continue helping the rest of the party. When I tell you that I handed her the menu, and she looks at me dead in the eyes and goes, I can't read. I was left absolutely speechless for a few seconds.
You can't read even like the most basic things like the flavors of Dippin' Dots. What would you do at that point? Like, I think I would just sit there and stare. I don't think that I would be able to do anything. I think I'd just be so stun locked into you can't read a simple menu. I would be floored.
You're going to tell me around 2nd, 3rd grade she can't read? I truthfully did not believe what I
Like at 2nd and 3rd grade, I was reading out of the KJV, King James Version, rather, Bible. Like I could understand sentence structures like that. So for me, that just seems so unbelievable that a 3rd grader can't read.
hearing, and that's just frightening.
How do you not know how to read at 9? We're not talking about like Shakespeare here, okay? This is dipping dot flavors, you know, like vanilla, strawberry. How the hell did we get here?
I was talking to one of our
All
church
right,
kids,
yep.
and he like very boldly told me, yeah, I don't know how to read it, neither does anybody in my class. Mind you, this kid is starting 5th grade. In August. And I thought he was playing, so I told him, you know kids will do anything for money. I was like, I'll give you $10 if you can tell me what this bag says.
You're not going to be able to say it.
In giant letters. So this dude goes, CHIPS. And I go, what does that say? And he goes, potatoes.
Oh my God.
We are so doomed. Hey, Shira? Yes?
I can't believe that we've gotten to this point. It's just like, who do you blame? Because it's like, yeah, you can, blame the parents and stuff like that, but like, there's got to be something greater that's causing this too. I just
You're
like
sponsored segment right now.
I have no idea where to aim that.
Okay, make it quick. You know how every app claims you can make money
They're not
from your phone?
even acknowledging
and it's
anything
always
that
like,
goes
yeah,
down
okay, sure. Well, I actually
that
tried
aisle,
one
and
this
yes,
week
I
just to see if
stopped
it works,
with
and
the
I was
trumpeted
pleasantly
because
surprised. This is
stomped the
Cash Your
trumpet
App,
because
and it's a free rewards
you
app
continue
where
to
you get paid to play
I'm so
games.
sorry
Before
about
you
that.
think this sounds like a scam, it's actually a pretty standard
It's one of those
model.
things
You
where it's
see,
just like
game
I
companies
played
already
a
spend
couple of
money to get
instruments
people
too,
to download their game.
and
Cash Your
I
App
was forced
partners
to
with
play
them,
it
and when
because
you
of the
play
school that I
through
went
the
to.
app,
They said,
get
okay, you
paid
got
and
to do
share
band. I
cut
was like,
reviews.
okay,
You're
sure.
basically getting a slice
But
of their marketing budget.
About
Anyway, getting started
maybe
with Cash Your
5
App
to
is
10 years
super
after
simple.
I'd stopped
You can
playing it, I
download it for
kind of
free,
really
no
regretted it because it's just like,
subscriptions,
man,
no
I
upfront
actually really
costs, and then
like
you just
playing an
allow it to track
instrument.
your progress so it can reward you. Then you pick a game, start playing.
Like I said,
and as
I've
you
thought
hit a
about getting back
milestone,
into
you
it
earn gems. Now I
quite
tried it
a-
myself,
quite a few
just playing
times, but I
between,
just
painting my house and building
never found the
furniture,
time.
and I've already earned around 20,000 gems.
Maybe in the future.
And cashing out is pretty easy. You can withdraw through PayPal, Amazon gift cards, and other vouchers. You can even start from around 30 cents, so you're not grinding forever just to see anything. It's on iOS and Android, and
I'm in
works
9th
to
grade and
over
you're writing full
150
books.
countries. So if you
I
want to
mean,
try it,
that's
use
great.
the link at the top of the description.
super
You
good.
get up to 3,999 gems.
Like
as
a lot of
welcome
people can't even
bonus.
like
So
put together 2
download it, try a few
sentences,
games,
so at
see
least
if you
you're
like
ahead
it.
of the
Now
curve.
let's get back to the video. Now, at first
Which
I
is
thought,
great.
okay, maybe these are just crazy one-off stories. And then I looked at the actual numbers, and they're kind of insane. According to the National Assessment of Educational Progress, fewer than 1 in 3 students can read proficiently. And to be specific, only a third 1/3 of 4th graders and 31% of 8th graders read at the proficient level in.
And the reason why this is specifically incredibly terrifying for people in general, because if you can't read and write at a level that is what we would consider to be at least functionally adult, you can't think, hold your own ideas or own opinions of the world. Mostly because you just lack the ability to be able to put into words why you feel away, the observations that you've made, and from your perspective and framework where your opinion is coming from. And that's terrifying because in order for our political system to function, in order for our everything to function, we need to have at least a minimally educated base of people to be able to run it, to be able to think and be their own personal philosophers, to be able to at least understand why they think the way that they do and articulate their opinion. And that going away really screams just absolute, we're going into an insane world. And the worst part about it is in an insane world, the person who is sane is the crazy person. And I hate to go into that world. I really don't want to go there. But we're very much speedrunning down that way. Your orthodontist gave me back some wax to help, but yeah, I was gonna say that wouldn't even you'd have to have kind of a weird mouth guard that would still get in the way of using your mouthpiece. It would just be like, You're a licensed beekeeper too. That's awesome. That's actually, honestly, I want to get some bees. I actually have a place where I might be able to put some bees down. I wanted to make sure that I had some, but that's in the far future.
2022, which means
I'm
more
definitely afraid of
students
wasps,
are struggling
though.
to understand
Like,
simple stories, pick
I am
out the
actually
main idea, or even
wasp-phobic,
explain what
like
they
the
just
bug.
read. And it doesn't stop at reading; it spills into everything else, especially writing. Because now a lot of them aren't even being asked to write full essays anymore, and even when they are, they're refused to write even a single paragraph because it feels too long.
I'm talking about high schoolers. I teach 10th grade now. If I ask a child to handwrite something, even just a paragraph, 5 sentences, basic paragraph, they roll their eyes, they throw tantrums, they get really, really unruly.
Man, I can't believe that.
Don't get me even started on their spelling.
Read this word.
Okay, hold on. Actually, I'm feeling added here. I can't spell. Granted, I've taken 4 different languages, and all of those language rules of the way in which words are spelled kind of mix in my mind. And a bunch of different cognates and false cognates also kind of mix in my mind and how those are spelled. So I kind of have a little bit of a reason on top of I think I might be a bit dyslexic. Huge debuffs. I'm stacking debuffs right now. But at least I know how to speak, think, and read. Last year we were using AI websites in ELA and didn't read any books. Our teacher retired because he was done with our district's BS. That's terrifying. Actually, you're in a unique situation to be experiencing this right now. That's I feel really bad. I feel bad for you because you're being not only failed by your teachers, you're being failed by the greater umbrella of the system itself, it sounds like. I don't know, I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. I'm never going to tell you how to live your life, but I will tell you if it were me in this situation with my current mind, my current framework, I would be marching into the teachers' meetings, the educational board meetings, and demanding them that they give me the education that you were promised by dint of your birth. You said you write books, channel that into writing essays, calling them on their bullshit. And I'm not going to tell you to be disruptive, but when they inevitably push back on you, make them show their bare ass for who they are. They don't care about your education. They're only showing up for a paycheck. I don't know. I'm just projecting here. Don't get in trouble. Don't do anything that would get you in trouble. But I would be fighting tooth and nail against this corrupt system that is forcing this AI stuff, the diseducation of our youth, and essentially tearing apart of the curriculum. I would be forcing them to come to terms with that they're causing this problem. You don't beekeep yourself, but your mother still does. That's awesome. like I said, I really do want to get some Bs because we might benefit from having them, but it is tedious. I don't live in a spot where I can get to there like frequently though. So for me, it's just a pipe dream. Oh, there's some thunder. Uh-oh. They heard me. They're coming from you guys.
What? What?
Betwin?
Okay, just
oh
making
no.
sure. Thank you.
Okay, I get it. Spelling is hard. Yeah, trust me, I know I had to learn English when I was 11. And a lot of English words make absolutely no sense.
Was it you lost $12 million last year and had to close like 5 to 8 schools? That's awful. And like, sure, you can talk about funding till the end of the days, and I get it. Like, obviously, we need to be funding schools more, and like, I'll even say that we do. Like, 100%, schools are criminally underfunded, and they have been since the 70s, right? And it just keeps getting worse and worse every year. And yeah, like, you would know this stuff too if you paid any amount of attention in general. Like, I'm talking from a layman's perspective, because you have a unique perspective because obviously you say your parents work in the school district, which is nice. But even a layman, if they cared to pay any amount of like attention whatsoever, they'd be able to see it because they'd see local governance issues. They'd be able to see like local government meetings, school board meetings, and most people just don't care, which is awful. Yeah, it's a head coach of track team, so he has to deal with that. Also, teachers need more pay. I definitely agree with you that teachers need more pay. I don't know how to fix the system myself personally. Like, if you really wanted my, like, I know that we're kind of getting off track here, but if you really wanted my, like, very radical solution, and I know nobody's going to like this, but this is my incredible radical solution, I'd have an opt-in program for people who were, like, 10th grade, around that level in 9th grade, and they'd be going into an advanced program where they'd have to get good grades and be at levels for something, and they could forego the last 2 years of high school and go directly into a combined high school track college bachelor degree program, but through the U.S. military. And that military program would also ensure them the 4 years that they need in order to have their continuous pay benefits, their insurance benefits, and it would basically be 4 years of service. So after they get done with their years until they hit 18, they then would become full-on U.S. soldiers, as well as benefiting from these educational programs, which would force them out the door at like around the age of 20, 21 with a bachelor's degree and 4 years of service. I think that there's a really good like program opportunity for that, but that's completely here or there. Like, that's just like a pipe dream for me.
Sense. For example, the word choir. Because when you first hear the word choir, okay, you break it up. Who-I-er. So you come to the logical conclusion that it's spelled like this. Choir. And then you find out how it's actually spelled, and it's spelled like this. No. That's chower. Chower. That's not choir. Stop trying to gaslight me into
but
thinking
on
that these
strict
are the same
steroids.
words,
Yes,
because they're definitely
exactly.
not. So yes, there are going to be a lot of confusing words
Mostly
you're gonna
because
come
like
across, but the
that
word
would be the
between,
best for
really?
everybody to be able to
Showing
opt
me how
into
to
it, no
spell
matter
between.
from what part of the country you're from. It would be an opt-in for everybody, not just people who are wealthy, not just people who have everything.
I'm sorry, but how do
Because
you get
it's the US
from
military. They take from all
TH
walks
to
of life.
W? Well, you get there by not learning the alphabet properly all the way back in kindergarten. Kindergarten is a crucial stage in a child's education journey where they begin to acquire foundational literacy skills. However, some children may face challenges in developing those skills, which can have long-lasting implications for their academic success. And yes, that sounds very academic and serious, but the idea is actually really simple. And it's if you fall behind in reading, you'll fall behind basically in every other subject, since, you know, reading is kind of
Well,
like
like
an
we said
essential life
earlier,
skill.
it's not even that you fall behind in every subject. You also fall behind in being able to have your own opinion, to be able to think, which is the more important problem, I think. That
It's like trying to play
kind of
a
goes
video
largely
game with
underdressed
no
because we're
controller
very
and wondering why you
goals-oriented,
keep
not
losing, or trying to build
substance-oriented
IKEA
as a
furniture
society.
with no instructions, or trying to bake a cake with half of the ingredients missing.
Damn, man, that's
You
awful.
get the point.
I
That
say
sucks,
this
bro.
With the
That was
utmost, like,
that was
love
awful.
and patience that I can say. Y'all, the literacy rates right now are insane. I teach first grade. Kids aren't reading. They're not recognizing letters. They're not recognizing letter sounds. I have students that can't recognize their letter sound. We got to do something.
I saw a video, like I said it earlier in the stream, about Casey Simpson, but he had a video where people were trying to like parse through very simple sentences. At least I'd call them simple sentences, but it was stuff like like the exaggerated expression belayed their true intent or something like that, where it'd be words that obviously, if you know what the word is or you've read the word before, which everybody should have at the point because they were adults, you'd be able to understand what it said. And maybe there'd be a few that you wouldn't know, but nobody in that video like understood any of it. They didn't understand the meaning of the sentence. They didn't know how to sound out the word. They've never come across a word like that. I literally had to pick up a book and just start reading. I actually started reading because of that video again. I was like, you know what? I'm going to start reading again.
Some of you are probably thinking like, oh, some kids are just slower than others, they'll catch up. Well, a longitudinal study following students from 1st to 4th grade found that the poor 1st grade reader almost inevitably remains a poor reader by the end of 4th grade. So no, they don't just magically
You also lose the
catch up.
majority
If you don't
ability to
tackle
communicate
reading problems early, they don't
to both
just go
older
away,
groups and your
they
peers.
get worse. And that's how
That's
you get
true.
high school students who still don't know the alphabet.
It's very true.
Every year that I've ever taught
Communication
band, at
is
the beginning of the
important,
year,
too.
when you're dealing with beginner musicians, the first thing that you do is teach them how to read notes on a music staff. And usually what I see in my classes when students are having a hard time identifying the note names on the staff, most of the time these issues have to deal with them not understanding that there's a line space, alternating orders. But this past year, it was different. A lot of these kids would not even use alphabet symbols. They would
That's
be making
terrifying.
up symbols. They would not even know how to write
They'd be hallucinating just like AI.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G on their piece of paper. They would also have issues not knowing alphabetical order in general. So if they knew how
that's
to write
awful.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, they couldn't answer to me what letter would come after C in the alphabet. And I'm not just talking 1 or 2 kids in the class. I'm talking closer to 50%.
That sounds so unbelievable that it almost sounds like it's a made up, right? We kind of live in like a weird paradox where some things that are real don't sound real and some things that don't sound real are real. Well, I mean, like, you know, what I'm saying is sometimes something seems so ridiculous that it's just real. You know, that feeling. I feel like we're living in the world where this seems so ridiculous that it sounds unreal now. Like, there's no way that people, because it seems so basic, right? Like, you can't fathom not knowing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on and so forth. Because it's just a simple ordered number, like an ordered system. And they're not even being able to articulate that is wild to
And
me.
you're probably thinking that this is like, you know, 1st grade, 2nd grade, maybe 3rd grade students. No, try 7th
9th grade?
graders.
Okay, 7th
And we're
grade.
not also
That's
just talking about
Jesus.
6th graders. We're talking about 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. Kids that are about to go into high school.
Not
No,
knowing
bro.
music notes, that's completely normal. But not knowing the alphabet, that's a problem. But
yeah, and not being able to read music, okay, that's fine. I would say that probably 90% of the population doesn't know how to read a sheet music. That's fine. Although not being able to go from A to Z in order, bro. How do they make it past kindergarten not knowing the ABC song? Because they just pass them along. They don't care if they fail. They literally can't fail them. They just have to, they pass them along. It's like we are in a madly made movie about the downfall of humans. It's not even that. It's like we're in like a satire. I was gonna say like socio satire, but that doesn't make sense. We're in like a satire of a movie of that, right? So it's just like the people who made it who's the guy who does disaster films, like The Day After Tomorrow? You know, that's kind of like a serious disaster movie, but with some like fantastical elements that don't really make sense up to scrutiny. But if you wanted to make a movie like Disaster Movie, which was based off of those movies, which was a satire of a disaster movie, that's what we're in. We're in like the Scary Movie of that type of movie. Like, it just seems so ridiculous. I don't want to use the word idiocracy or the movie Idiocracy because it's overplayed, but really we are.
not knowing the alphabet in 7th grade, that's terrifying.
It is. It's like, how do you get there?
Basics like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Because clearly we skipped a few steps there, right? Let's send them back.
They would be making up symbols.
Now, the strangest part of all of this is that Gen Alpha actually reads more words per day than any other generation.
I want to see a statistic on this. I actually want to see a statistic on this. I don't think that they actually read it. I think they maybe view more words than than previous generations. I could agree to that. But reading and viewing are two different things.
in human history. That's right, they're the first generation to fully grow up immersed in digital technology with access to information at all times. Like, statistically, objectively, more access to words through captions, comments, and subtitles. So if exposure
but that's
to
viewing,
words
that's
alone
not
made you
reading.
literate, these kids would probably be the most well-read, articulate children to ever exist in history. They'd be out here quoting Shakespeare, not struggling to read Debbing.Flavor.
I don't know about that one because Shakespeare's kind of made in a different style of English, but
And she looks at me dead in the eyes and goes, I can't read.
So what actually happened? Well, if you ask people, you'll get different answers every single
it's
time.
really
Some
thundering
will
out
say
there.
it's TikTok, some will say it's the iPads, some say it's the pandemic, some say the parents or the teachers, or it's
I think they recognize words which counts as reading. They don't actually read it. You know, that you bring up a good point because I remember hearing about that where like, it's like sight words or something like that, where they teach you like how to look at a word and it says like, oh yeah, you can kind of get that word or something like that. And it's just like, I don't like that because you're not actually reading and internalizing the meaning of something. Because like, you know, I can read really slow. I really do. I read very slow, but my reading comprehension is incredibly high. That's one of the reasons why I don't really read, because it takes me forever to get through like a passage, and I usually tend to like hear it audiated to me. But that's neither here nor there. My reading comprehension has always been high, and that's what we're missing, is we're actually missing the ability to dissect and understand texts. Because just because you can read something doesn't mean you understand it. Again, it's a much deeper problem.
something called skibbity toilet.
No,
Which
Skibbity Minson.
apparently
No,
is not even
please.
a thing anymore, according to my sources. Anyway, personally, I like to say it's a combination of all of those things and more. So let's start with the pandemic, which honestly, looking back, didn't even feel real because we as a society were so ill-prepared to deal with what happened. And somehow the solution to all of this was just to put a bunch of kids on Zoom calls and hope for the best.
Yeah, that'll go great.
Yes, Sarah?
That can't be poor, right? Oh, Jesus. Oh, no, my ears. I can't do it.
There you go.
Look at...
I'm not gonna lie.
Did you see
if
the
I was
teacher, by the way? The teacher looked so disinterested in
the
what
teacher
was
during
happening.
this time, I would have lost my mind.
That's rough.
Turn it off. I will mark you as absent. Okay. Music off.
Oh, he has a cigar. Oh my god, dude, please.
No, I would have quit like immediately because what is
I couldn't do it. If I were a teacher, I'd just be like, no, I'm done. I ain't doing this. I'm going to take the 2 years.
this? And it's not like
Sorry,
there were
at the time it was 2 weeks,
any
lol.
consequences for being disruptive in Zoom either, because you can't really give
what are you gonna do?
detention
Give it
over Zoom.
detention?
Like, what is a teacher gonna do? Kick you out of the call? Oh no, I guess I'll go play Minecraft
I'm so
now.
glad I didn't grow up through this.
Why are you putting all that money there?
Now the kids that I feel
I'm not going to lie, I would be a terrible student during this time. It would have been so bad. It's the schools flat in the paratees. Oh, okay. Because they don't care. No, for sure. 100%. Yeah, no, I totally agree that the schools definitely need money, but you know, I think there is also an incumbency on the side of the student and on the side of the student's home as well, because education isn't a one-sided endeavor. Education, no worries, don't worry about it. Education also should be a where was I going this? Should be an opt-in from both sides, because that's what it is. It's an agreement that I'm going to teach you and you're going to learn, not I'm going to force you to learn something. And we don't really have that, I would say, mentality ingrained into our society nowadays, which is unfortunate, because if you're trying to teach somebody who doesn't want to be taught, good luck. You should also want to learn. So there is a little bit of incumbency on both sides, but I do agree they need more money.
the worst for aren't even the ones that are messing around, right? It's the ones that started school during all of this. Because those first few years are the ones where basically everything starts. It's when you learn how to read, write, basically listen, follow instructions, and how to exist in a room with other kids without being disrupted. And a lot of that just does not translate through a screen, especially if you're like 5.
Water, food, home, educations are rights, not privileges. Yeah, I can agree to that in a narrow scope. I don't know about. I usually tend to draw. I don't want to get on a side tangent here, but I'll just say I usually tend to draw the line at where you are able to provide something for yourself and where you must demand of somebody else they give you something. And as soon as you demand of somebody else in order to gain something, then that doesn't become a right anymore, because you don't have a right to somebody else's like entire personage. So there's a lot of debate that could go in there, but I think generally speaking, by right of our birthright as being American citizens, we are entitled to these things in a manner of speaking. Although that entitlement also dictates that we should have a responsibility in turn to our society. So there's a little bit more nuance that goes into that, at least from my perspective.
Wave.
Wave. Can you give us a smile? I see your wave.
I love how she goes from wave to wave.
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 And yeah, I'd be side-eyeing too, because imagine this is your first experience with education and it's some strange lady you've never met before on a screen telling you to smile.
Can you give us a smile?
On top of that, you'd have your audio lagging, your video freezing, half of the class wouldn't be paying attention, and the internet
As a student who went through lockdown and didn't pay attention, you were honors and your mom was in the same room. I mean, yeah, like it is what it is. That's why I said it's kind of weird with the way that they went through school during the pandemic, is because they had no consequences essentially for not learning. And, say what you will, but I think that did a little bit of untold damage towards the way in which maybe education was perceived through the generation that's going through the system, and maybe even affected the adults who were administrating that education. I don't know. I think there was probably about maybe 40% of the problems with the education system caused during that time and our lingering effects of that, but it's definitely not I wouldn't say that it is the singular reason why we are where we are.
cut out because someone decided to use the microwave.
I would be a terrible student during that
me.
time.
Must be nice.
I just wouldn't pay attention. I'd be on whatever I had,
because if you were in a crowded
and
apartment,
played video
sharing
games.
a device
I mean,
with siblings,
I was
while
smart
your parents
enough,
are also trying to work from home,
or rather,
right?
I was more experienced enough with computers. Of course, saying that if all things being equal, at the time where I'd just be doing other things on the computer, like they wouldn't be able to stop me. Grinding cool math games, but still got my work done. I mean, I wouldn't even be grinding cool math games. I'd just be on other game sites. I'd be like,
so by the time
not
the
that those
classrooms
exist
opened
anymore.
back up, a whole generation of kids had spent their
Good
formative
luck finding
years learning
a
that
flash
school is
game
something
site
that
in the
happens
year of
on
our
a screen.
Lord
They can scroll TikTok from their
2026.
phones while sitting in a class, and teachers are just a voice on a screen. And learning is optional.
I think
and you can just
Congregate's still
turn your
around,
camera
but
off.
kind of in a different setting.
Yes?
Where were you?
I was here the whole time. My Wi-Fi was lagging.
That being said, though,
Sure you were.
depending on when you're watching this, COVID was a long time ago, and a lot of teachers are starting to say the same thing, that at some point we have to stop using it as an excuse. Because if your kid still can't read, write, or have any social skills, you cannot blame COVID anymore. And yes, that period of
Like I said,
time
it's
did
incumbent
rewrite
on a
how
bunch
we
of
do
different
school, how kids
factors,
learn, and how
part of
parents,
that is
parent.
the student
And
themselves,
yes, for a while everything was
and the student
chaotic.
support
There were no
structure
rules,
that
no structure, and no
disincentivizes
real
education.
accountability. And honestly, that
Disincentivizes,
made
rather.
sense for the time, but the problem is we never fully went back. Okay, if anything, we stayed in COVID, because when you compare it to how things were before, it really starts to feel like we've relaxed way too much as a society when it comes to expectations.
No,
Like,
nobody cares anymore. The problem is like I said, there is actually a lack of value put on education, which is in itself terrifying. Because when you start to devalue education, you start to lose the ability to participate in society.
for example,
And
I
we're
get it
venerating
back
that
then
at
it
this
was okay
point,
to
which
just
is
throw
not
your
good.
iPad at your kid if you needed to do some work from home for 20 minutes. But that was supposed to be temporary, and instead it became like the new normal.
I'm so
and
glad I
now
didn't
you
grow
just
up
see
with
kids
any of these
iPads
things.
everywhere.
I probably would be an iPad kid because I would have demanded it, right? Because I liked my technology. I didn't like to go outside. I was required to go outside by my parents, and I thank them every day that they just didn't give in to my whims, because I think I'm a more well-rounded person because I've done sports, I've done activities outside. I mean, like, most of my time was spent outside. And yeah, I can joke about it all I want that they didn't give me video games, but like, I'm happy that I had at least some of those other experiences, as well as being able to play video games when I was a child. How long before you think somebody blames COVID for a kid not even born during or directly after it? Well, I think that you can, in a protracted sense, blame COVID because the downstream effects of it as an experience definitely are going to manifest for decades. I would say decades after it happened. But that also should come with the asterisk. The people who are participating in the education system at the same time are also to blame. So I think that we probably could get away with blaming it for quite some time. But it's not going to, like, it always has to come with, there is another thing that we must blame.
In restaurants, airports,
and nobody
all the
wants to address
grocery
that other
shopping,
part.
And babies are being handed
It's an
iPads
easy
before they could even
target
learn to
because
say,
it doesn't blame
Mom,
anybody.
I'm going to Best Buy to get my 1-year-old toddler's iPads.
Dude, no.
Best Buy with me and my baby girls.
Can we actually, do you think there's going to be in the future a either class action lawsuit or like some type of like series of lawsuits to retroactively consider this child neglect and endangerment? I can see a world in which maybe legally the justice system might be able to be leveraged against people who just don't parent their children. Because it's going to be, it's already a problem, but it's going to become a much bigger problem in the future. I don't know. I think we're playing a dangerous line here. I think actually, now that I'm thinking about it more, that could be a future that we find ourselves in. And to be honest, I don't want to be in that future because then I have to deal with the product of these parents.
I'm gonna buy them some iPads.
Now, at first I thought she was joking because what do you mean?
Oh,
1-year-olds are
don't
getting
do it.
iPads. I thought she was gonna take
If
them
I
like,
ever have
instead
kids,
to like a
they're not
bookstore or
interacting
maybe
with
like a
technology
game
until
store.
they're like
No,
14.
She's dead serious.
Let me see how she looks.
At this point, they're making me, they're
Is it too
turning
big
me
for
into
you?
a Luddite.
Oh my goodness, they're so little. Okay, I decided on an iPad. I'm getting 2, of course.
It's so crazy to think that I got my
It's
first
insane,
iPhone
bro.
when I was, I think, 14, and now 1-year-olds are getting.
I didn't get my first iPhone until I was well in college because I didn't want one. I was like, this is stupid. I don't need this in my pocket all the time. And I'm glad that I do have it because it definitely helps me with a lot of things, right? There's like a lot of minor tasks that it can do. But my God, I am so glad that I grew up having like a regular phone and not having this with me because I think I would have been so addicted to it. Due to a health condition called Newman syndrome, my left heart chamber is bigger. I have heard of that syndrome, and thus makes it harder to pump blood. I almost died in birth because of it. Now you can't do any competitive sport. That's fine. Like, I'm not saying that you have to do sports. I'm saying that you have to have at least some type of a life outside of any type of like technology like this, right? And that's super unfortunate for you. I'm sorry to hear that. I really am. That seems like it's probably a struggle. And I hope that, you're able to, cope's the wrong word. I hope that you're able to, what am I trying to say? I hope that it's not causing you untold duress in your life. But I understand that. Like, I get it. But even in that, there are still probably a lot of things like reading and writing, like you say that you do, that take the place of these things. And that's what I mean by like getting more experiences that aren't just staying on your iPad, staying on your technology. And, I think we should be encouraging more of that, no matter what it is, as long as it's something that isn't like this brain rot that's causing actual brain rot.
iPads. What? Listen, I get it. Raising kids is really hard. I'm not pretending that it isn't. But is it so hard? The solution is just a screen millimeters away from their face with flashing colors and bouncing shapes to keep them entertained. Like, I feel like we skipped a few steps there because all you really need to do to entertain like a 1-year-old is peekaboo. Like, literally, that's it. We went from peekaboo to handing them a fully optimized, highly addictive dopamine machine before they could barely even walk. I feel like that's a little extreme.
I'm a retired middle school teacher here, but I do sub now, and I sub a lot in kindergarten. Here's a look about teaching, and I want to talk about the iPad kid. I see kids who cannot use their words. They don't know how to wait their turn. They can't hold scissors.
I know a couple people like this in real life, or rather, I guess maybe tangentially know a couple people like this in real life, where there isn't like a way in which they're effectively able to communicate with actual words. And it's hard because obviously, like, I'm not their parent. I can't tell them, how to parent their children, but it's like, bro, come on, you can't be doing this. it breaks my heart because I know where they're going to be at in like a decade, and yikes.
They don't know how to hold a pencil. They don't know how to spell their own name. By the time your child gets to kindergarten, they
Pretty
should
sure
know
it's more
their
addictive than
ABCs and they should
cigarettes
know
or
a lot of
vapes.
their
You're not
numbers.
wrong.
I'm not telling you everything.
It's addictive because of the way that it's meant to like force you to continue
has
to
be
use
perfect.
it.
But as I sub, I am seeing a lot of children with a lot of those deficits. But there's one thing they do know
Like
how
even
to do,
worse,
and that
yeah,
is how to
than
turn on
vapes
an
or
iPad
cigarettes.
and how to use it.
Now, at first in my boomer brain, I thought
Probably
that this
even,
was just
like,
bad
hard
parenting,
drugs,
right?
too.
Parents are handing their kids iPads from when they were 1 and letting them get hooked, and it's affecting their development. I thought that was the obvious answer, right? But then I realized that it's actually not just the parents.
Like, I know you said that you write and stuff like that. I don't know if like, sorry, I had to bend over here real quick though. Put a can in the can. But I don't know if you like read a lot, and I know that it seems like you say that you're relatively young. One book series that you might really get a lot out of as like something that kind of speaks to this, you should look into reading Isaac Asimov books. I think that like the iRobot series, I think is the one that I'm thinking of, but also the Foundation series is really good because it kind of predicted the trajectory of where we're going when he was writing in the 50s, maybe? I don't remember when he wrote. Was the Foundation written? 41. Close. But you might get a lot of mileage out of that author. You might get a lot of mileage out of reading the Foundation. I would suggest it. Just, if you want to look into it, go for it. Babies quite literally just need anything that's tactile and auditory, and obviously safe for them. An iPod is a wild way to brain rot them early. Oh yeah, no, they're getting spawn camped. Like they're absolutely getting spawn camped. Here, you know what? We'll real quickly. Sorry, give me a second. We'll 5 seconds. I know you get to hear the diegetic sounds of me typing with Bloodborne sounds. Isn't that amazing? By the way, I'm a huge Bloodborne fan. How did you know? Copy. Go back. Chat. Paste. There you go. Just in case spelling was a little off, I'll hit you with that.
It's the schools too. A
You should
report
give
found
it-
that 94%
give it a check off. I know I
of
didn't
public schools
capitalize
surveyed
anything 'cause I'm a
provided digital
savage.
devices to students in 2022.
94% of public schools surveyed provided digital devices to students. Why? Why? Like, don't get me wrong. Back in the day when we had like, you know, days where we did computer stuff, right? Like we had the computers rolled into our class, or like we went down to an actual computer class where we learned how to type and things about computers. Like those were great days. But why are we handing them out now like this? Like, I feel like that should be a special thing. I feel like we should be like teaching them the basics of education. Cause like, again, it's the second order effects that are going to be the problem. I 100% agree with being able to integrate these things into classrooms in order to enhance education. But with near ubiquity, we have found that these things do not, in fact, achieve those stated goals. So we should just end the program because it's not working. Go back to the drawing board.
94%. So it's like not something you just get on the weekends. No, it's something you have all day, every day, during school, after school, literally all the time. There was actually this reporter who visited a kindergarten in Seattle and saw something kind of insane. There were kids sitting on the playground before school, locked into their school-issued iPads.
I can't
And she made a
believe
simple
that.
point. I do not know any educator, parent, or child expert who hasn't been bought by big tech who would
I just
argue
can't believe that this
scrolling
is-
on an iPad
oh my
before
God.
school instead of running around playing with friends is
Yeah, you want to know what I did when I was their age? I was running around on a play equipment.
inherently better for children, especially
I was
when
using
we
finger
know that
guns and
those
getting
same
in trouble
children are
because
about
finger
to
guns were
enter
bad.
a building where they will continue to use that same device while seated in their desks in the classroom.
Which
now,
speaks to a
iPads
greater
on the
problem in
playground
society.
alone is shocking enough, but we also have some recent data showing that children ages 8 to 18 average 7.5 hours per day on screen-based media outside of school.
Jesus.
So when do they ever get a break from a screen?
Never.
Do they ever experience boredom, silence, or just thinking? Because this constant
No. No, and that's the problem. Like, in order to be with yourself is to be uncomfortable. In order to think is to be uncomfortable. And in order to be a holistic person, it is to recognize that you will always be uncomfortable with yourself. And in becoming a greater, more whole individual, it is the process of rationalizing to yourself and becoming comfortable with yourself. And people can't do that today because they are adverse to anything uncomfortable.
The use of short-form rapid technology is creating a multitude of issues, starting with memory and learning.
Random teacher rant. Look, man, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why children are not able to retain information.
I do. It's because they don't have to. Like, why would you have to know something when you can just look it up? The obvious answer to that is where you're looking it up is either biased, untrue, an outright lie, or an AI fabrication. But they're not going to know. Well, they don't know at all. It doesn't matter to them because they just think that they're always going to have it on hand. And maybe in the future they will always have it on hand. But I don't want to live in that society because if you can't retain the information, then you can't actually think.
What's the problem? We just spent 3-4
Bro,
weeks practicing.
once me and my friend and a bunch of other kids all got on this wobbly bridge thingy and we broke it because it was so old and a bunch of kids were on it, no one got in trouble. That's funny, man.
Going over the lesson, doing worksheets.
I remember doing stuff like that.
Repeat it.
I remember doing stuff like that.
Then we come to the test, and I got kids looking at me like, I don't know what to do. Yo, we just spent all this time, and you retained.
Yeah, they can't look it up. That's why. They can't look up like your lecture.
I genuinely think this is, again, the fault of technology, because once you bring a device into the classroom, teachers are having to compete for students' attention. Because while the teacher is trying to explain something step by step, students are being constantly bombarded with information from all directions. Social media, the news, online videos, etc. This constant influx of information can make it harder for students to focus and remember what they learned in the classroom. I mean, the brain can only handle so much information at once. When it's constantly being fed new data, it becomes harder to store and retrieve important information.
Part of the problem we have in education.
Well, I'd also think that like when you are constantly being bombarded with new data that's like garbage data, because that's what it is. This is essentially garbage data. You don't learn the ability, I would say, to be able to discern between what is worthy of being retained and what isn't worthy of being retained. And I think that there's a lot of mistaking of what is important with what isn't important also happening.
Nowadays is that we're teaching, but students aren't remembering things in their brain. And there's a perfect example of this.
Because they don't care.
Happened to me today. We spent
they're not
most
encouraged
of the first
to
semester
care.
drilling paragraph and response writing and that sort of thing because my 8th graders did not know how to write paragraphs at the beginning of this year. But I taught them. They knew how to write paragraphs. They could do it. They could label all the parts. We did a whole activity near the end of the semester where they made posters of all the things they learned and put them on the walls displaying student work. And then today, I asked the class, what are the parts of a paragraph? Expecting quick responses. And I get silence. All 6 of my classes today, utter silence. See, I can do high quality instruction as much as I want. But if the students themselves are not engaging with it, I can't force them to do that. I can't step into their brains and make them do it. And yet at the end of the year, if they don't know how to do that, it's going to be my fault.
Now, if you thought things couldn't get more complicated already, we now have...
I can understand that because like, I would say like if I were a teacher, I'd be afraid of that too, because it's just like, you're kind of put in a weird catch-22 where you are at fault for every bad thing and you are never given praise for any good thing. And you are negatively incentivized to chase what is good because they are incentivizing what is not good. I couldn't do it. I couldn't be a teacher. Like, I don't know how anybody can do it, actually.
AI. And this is
they have
where
the patience of a saint and the ability to work within the system that I don't have.
According to a report based on 1,000 parents,
I'd mulled out like every day.
Use AI for research, 44% use it for their schoolwork, and 25% regularly chat with.
I think that any amount. So I'm torn on AI for research only for 2 reasons. One, if you're using it in a way that's like, hey, can you find some sources on this topic? That's fine. Because you're not using AI to think for you. You're using AI to find some sources, which you should only be doing in addition to your other research that you're already doing. But too many of the times, it just becomes so much easier to be like, write this paper. Find all of these sources. I'm not even going to think about them. Do this, that, and the other thing. And we're not teaching I would say proper AI etiquette, or maybe even proper AI hygiene. That might even be a more proper word for it, because nobody thought about this.
AI bots, huh? So it's not just essays being written.
I mean,
by
they're
AI
even using
anymore.
it to like
It's,
talk to other
doing the
people
research,
too, which
it's
is
giving them the
insane to me.
answers. It's doing the whole thinking process itself, and the students aren't the only ones using it.
Hey kids. Hey teach. Welcome back to school. Sorry, who are you?
I'm artificial intelligence.
You're not a student here. You're not even human.
Yeah, but I go here.
But
Yeah,
you're
you
not
do, sure.
enrolled.
You and I both know that schools all
You
over
remember
the
when
country have
Wikipedia wasn't
embraced
even
AI.
Not me, pal.
wasn't even a reliable
Who prepared
source?
those worksheets you're about?
No, 100%. Wikipedia is not a reliable source at all. And like, if anybody wants to argue that it is a reliable source for certain things, no, it's not. The bottom sources are generally the reliable sources, as long as they're not opinion editorials, and as long as they are actually like primary or secondary sources. But beyond that, that is an opinion article website. You can't trust it as a source. You're 100% against AI because it's destroying my state's ecosystem and taking up all the water. You know, I don't blame you on that one. I get that. Like, I don't know anything about like the destruction to the environment. I don't know anything about like the way in which like water is being consumed by AI, because I don't think I live in a state that has that, or at least I haven't heard about it. So I don't know nothing about that. But I know that if it is causing an excise problem like that, I feel like you should have at least some recourse against it. So I get that.
To pass out. 2.5 million teachers use an app called Magic School AI. I'm coming in.
By the way, I think that teachers using AI to plan lessons or doing something like that, because from my understanding, from whatever this is trying to tell me from the perspective, is they're using it to plan lessons, write lessons, whatever it is. I think that that should be nearly totally outlawed. I don't think that teachers have I don't think they should have I don't know if privilege would be the right thing. I don't think teachers should be able to have that as a resource, because I think in order to teach effectively, you must have a mastery over the subject and be able to plan your own lessons for it. Yeah, it helps a lot of people who are like, doing the tedious bits of it, but that's part of the job of being a teacher. You can't have AI do your job for you. I don't know. That might be a wild take, but I think that should be outlawed.
I'd like to welcome our new student, AI.
Oh yeah, we know him.
But you're seniors. It's been that long? Yeah, we've been cheating off him since the middle of freshman year. But we don't even have laws to deal with you.
President Trump signed an executive order in April promoting the use of AI for American youth.
Bot, can you take notes for me?
Sure thing. Trump also unveiled a vision of global AI.
I think this is probably an L too. I don't know what this is. Like, I don't know what like these executive orders or what they do, but if this is what this is claiming it does, then yeah, big L. 100% big L.
Dominance in a 23-page.
Because it's not a healthy relationship with AI.
Sure. What do you want to learn today?
Nothing.
Okay, I love you.
Now, the biggest problem that I have with ChatGPT and AI is that it's not some all-knowing genius, okay? It just generates answers. And sometimes those answers are completely made up. More than 2 years after the arrival of ChatGPT, tech companies, office workers, and everyday consumers are using AI bots for an increasingly wide array of tasks. There is still no way of ensuring that these systems produce accurate information.
Exactly, because there's no way that you can like you can't test everything to see if it's accurate information. Not only that, but like nobody is going to in the near future. Sorry, I had to change something real quick. Nobody in the near future is going to be able to have any mastery over the information that they supposedly have mastery over if the AI just does it for them anyway.
The newest and most powerful technologies, so-called reasoning
We are
systems
going
from
into
OpenAI, Google,
like,
and the Chinese.
One thing that I heard is like we're going into a new intellectual dark age, and I always push back against that because I was like, "There's no way." But now with AI, which was kind of like, in my perception, or rather my frameworking of what they were trying to articulate, was a bit of a black swan to me because I didn't see it coming nearly as hard as it did. I think they might be right. I think we might be heading into more of an intellectual dark age type of thing. Don't get me started on our. I mean, we're not going to talk politics here because like I don't have anything, whatchamacallit. I don't have anything lined up that's like hyper political. Sure, everybody's probably got their opinions about it, and you can have your opinions about it, sure. But at the end of the day, as long as we keep it civil and talk about it in terms that aren't, hyperbolic and, obviously ad hominem attacks, we try to keep it like that. So try not to engage in ad hominem. And if you have an opinion, that's fine. We can all share our opinion, but we're coming at this in good faith. We want to talk to each other in good faith too. So that's kind of like, if we do talk about something political, that's how we're going to approach it.
Startup DeepSeek are generating more errors, not fewer. As their math skills have notably improved, their handle on facts have gotten shakier. It is not entirely clear why. Today's AI bots are based on complex mathematical systems that learn their skills by analyzing enormous amounts of digital data. They do not and cannot decide what is true and what is false. Sometimes they just make stuff up, a phenomena some AI
100%.
researchers call hallucinations. On one test,
And this is, like I said, one of the big problems where it's just like, people just don't have any information now. They don't know how to discern whether or not something is or isn't real. Period. And that's a big problem.
hallucination rates of newer AI systems were as high as
Especially because like the down the lines effects of that is
almost 50%
nothing's going
of
to be
Gen
true
Alpha
anymore.
kids are using AI as an essential tool in their research. It's also likely that at least 80% of that information is wrong. We are so doomed.
This MIT study about AI just revealed something huge. In the experiment, students wrote timed essays using either just their own brains, Google search, or ChatGPT. And the ChatGPT group didn't just do worse, they couldn't remember a single accurate quote from what they had just written. Their brain scans also showed the same thing, the weakest activity and connection between areas, the shallowest processing. The researchers called it cognitive debt. You save effort now, but you pay for it later with worse recall and weaker thinking. Okay, but here's the twist. When students started with their own brain first and only used ChatGPT afterward, their essays actually improved and...
Yeah, that's where we want to be. Where it's like you need to at least be able to think about your essay, be able to know what you want to write, be able to like actually have most of the pieces of the puzzle there and only use AI to supplement the other pieces of the puzzle that you don't know, which is completely fine. But still, like, people don't do that. And when everyone's stupid, no one will be... no, that's true. 100%. When everyone's stupid, no one will be. Like, and I don't want to live there. I mean, that's the same thing that you can say about literally when everyone's equal. No, sorry, when everybody is... when everybody's equal, nobody will be as well, as another take on that I've heard floating around. But for sure, it's just like, the longer we abet this learned cultural dislike, this learned cultural distaste of learning, the worse and worse it gets for us. And I really hope that, you know, obviously I don't have that big of a platform, so I can only do what I can, which I hope I'm doing a decent job at that. But I hope that my betters, and even at some points in times my worsts, will try to push in a way more of a value on education.
The recollection
and more of a value on education that isn't like from one side or the other, more of a value on education that's substantive, that teaches the correct skills that we need, such as how to think, how thinking affects your life, why you should be thinking, and not think this way because I told you to.
What they'd written was strong. Their brain activity,
but nobody wants to do that because it
remained
doesn't
high.
make
started with
good
ChatGPT,
voter bases.
Even when they
Doesn't make
moved to their
good
own brains, they got
economic
stuck
workers.
in the mental groove that AI created, even when the AI was taken away. So the rule is simple: brain first, ChatGPT second.
Now look, I personally am not completely against AI because realistically, I don't think it's going anywhere. That's why our only option here is to teach the next generation to use it properly. But the biggest problem is that the iPad generation is already at a huge disadvantage because we're talking about kids who struggle to focus, who can't retain information, who are used to getting instant answers for everything. So expecting them to suddenly slow down and question every response, right? To think critically about what they're being told, that's a huge ask.
It is. It's a huge ask because they've never developed these skills naturally through the system. And I think that there needs to be a drastic change in which we orient rather towards more traditional skill sets that were taught, like that were just articulated, the ability to critically think and stuff like that. And a drastic result requires a drastic solution. We need to, in some way, just remove all of it from schools. Just period. We need to go back to analog ways of looking things up. People need to be taught how to utilize their brain and creatively so in order to overcome problems. Honestly, I'd probably say that like schools might even need to just have a moratorium on technology, like just period. I don't know. That might be a little egregious, but fix the problem. Also, due to our basic prehistorical tendencies, greed and selfishness will always happen. Yeah, no, I definitely think that probably. I mean, I tend to think that the base level of operating for humans is selfishness, and the measure of whether or not you are or are not a good person is whether or not you can recognize that you basically are selfish and then overcome it by willingly choosing not to be selfish. Now, I look at the improved version of a Google search, good to give you summaries and jumping off points, but it should never be taken at face value. No, for sure. Like, it's good to look up like real quick things if you're not really like, if you're not really tending to be discerning about it, but you should at least have a little bit of an ability to discern whether or not it's lying to you. AI just has a additional tool of use on top of the searching. Yeah, exactly.
Frustrating, and it's disheartening because if I ask a child to handwrite something, even just a paragraph, 5 sentences, basic paragraph, they roll their eyes, they throw tantrums, I'm talking about
Well, yeah, they get mad because they can't do it.
high schoolers. I teach 10th grade now. They get really, really unruly, and because I'm young too, they want to argue with me about it, and they want to say, why can't we just type it? Why can't we just type it? Well, it's because you'll go on another website or you'll copy it or use
Yeah, because we don't trust you because we live in a low trust society.
I understand that our world is
Imagine
going in a
how that
direction
works.
where AI is going to be more prevalent even in the workforce someday. That still doesn't take away that these are basic skills you need to survive.
And that's why this doesn't start in the classroom, okay? It starts at home with something as simple as actually helping your child learn. Because guess what? The parent is actually the child's first teacher.
I was in Costco today with my husband. I saw a woman who had her 2 children in the carriage, and each child had an iPad and earphones on. They were about kindergarten, first grade.
I also think that it's not only like the parents' job to teach, it's also society's job to teach as well. And we've been offloading a lot of that responsibility to nowhere. Like, time was back in the day that it wasn't just the parents themselves that raised children. It was the entire community that would raise the child, right? So it's just like you'd have your local community, you'd know everybody in your neighborhood, you'd know whose kid was moving around, whose kid was doing whatever. And you respected, as the child, the adults in your life that weren't your direct parents. Sure, you can talk about all day about the, I would say, wild outliers where this didn't work, but that's what they just are, is they're outliers. Generally speaking, the majority of children who grew up during that time learned from their community, and it was an overall healthy relationship between them and the community. And we lost that because we've taken the outliers and tried to legislate around and regulate around bad actors, when unfortunately there's no way to do that without curtailing the freedoms of everybody else and curtailing the virtues of society in general, because it makes everybody an enemy of everybody else, or at least at best it makes everybody suspicious of everybody else.
And I said to my husband, those are your iPad kids. And he said, well, what else do you expect the mom to do? I said, the mom could do a lot of things right now. Take the iPads away. Take the kids out of the carriage, let them walk. Teach them how to say excuse me to people that they're coming in front of. Social skill. Ask your child to look for an item using the ABCs, spelling things out. Maybe doing a little bit of math.
That's not always possible all the time either, because obviously you have some time that you probably need to be able to do stuff, but it's a good jumping off point for most parents, but you need to actually parent your child for that.
A teacher.
Now, all of that sounds really nice, in theory, until you realize that a lot of parents genuinely don't care about their kids' education. And some of them even get annoyed when their kids get homework.
So I'm scrolling on Facebook.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to lay down after this video. If you ever become a parent, no personal tech, iPad until 7 or 8, then no phone until middle school. I mean, I probably wouldn't even make sure that they have personal tech until like they're a teenager, mostly because it's like at that point in their life, their brains already got the foundation, I would say, for continuing on stuff. I don't know. I honestly, this is going to sound wild, but there was somebody else who suggested no technology. Like, it's outlawed for people until they're 18. Like, you need to have a license to have any amount of technology. And every day I grow closer to agreeing with that.
minding my business as one does, and I came across this post, and it says they done it again. How do I set up a parent-teacher conference? Because baby be effing for real. And I was like, I was confused because I didn't see nothing wrong with this. And come to find
What was that? I'm not gonna touch on the way that was worded.
They need to do homework. They need to learn. That's the point of going to school. But I kept going through the shares and I kept seeing common themes. So the next post I saw was this one. And it says, I'm actually concerned. I just looked at my baby's papers. It's on all papers. Why the dumb school system teaching the babies to spell wrong? And so I was confused. And I was looking at the sheet and I didn't see nothing.
Oh, I see it. I see what they're talking about.
Wrong. Come to find out, they're talking about where it says color. They think that that is
I'm gonna let them continue.
This last one say, if the teacher can't spell, how she teaching them kids? God, why do you let dumb people procreate? This is why the kids are slow. This is why the teachers quitting. This is why the teachers don't like teaching y'all kids. Y'all send y'all kids to go to school and learn. Then they gotta come home and have a conversation with you.
Oh Lord, okay.
They get fucking spawn camped at home too.
So fun fact, the way that color is spelled right there is actually correct for British.
Yep, because there's imagine there's two different ways to spell a word. That's unfathomable to some people,
English,
I think.
or English for the rest of the world. For some reason, Americans just decided to slightly switch spellings of some words like color or flavor, humor, labor, neighbor.
By the way, the US spelling for it's correct. You'll never be able to I'm too American pilled in order to change my opinion on that.
So apologize or organize, and some really difficult words like leukemia, maneuver, estrogen, and pediatric. And then for some reason, they decided to change the spelling of the word mom, which still messes me up to this day. Look at you guys learning so much stuff on this channel. Now, I really hope that most parents know that, because if they don't,
Nope. Again, if statistics are anything to go by, which I usually tend to go by statistics a lot, around 50% of adults cannot read at a 6th grade level or above. Which means that no, a majority of parents, by statistical value, cannot do this. Or rather, I guess a plurality, but hyperbolically, I'm going to say majority. Which is, and then the number is going down every day.
how are they supposed to teach their kids? Because the scary part is, according to the US National Adult Literacy Survey, about 21% of adults are illiterate, meaning they struggle to read things like the newspaper or even basic health information. So think about that for a second. Okay, if the parent struggles to read, how is the child supposed to learn? So maybe it isn't just the iPad or COVID or
it's
teachers
like both.
or any other excuse you want to make. Sometimes it all starts in the home. Okay, so this video has been pretty bleak, so let me give you some actual good news. Researchers at Carnegie Mellon University gave struggling child readers 100 hours of intensive instructions, and the results—
I love reacting to a reactor reacting to a YouTuber that's reacting to posts, and people in those posts are sometimes reacting to another poster situation. Listen, it is the endless cycle of content. I cannot change it. I am only a cog in the machine, and I put myself in alignment with it, at least for now.
Kind of insane. Within 100 hours, the gray matter in their brains linked to reading actually increased. So no, Gen Alpha isn't completely doomed. All it takes is around 100 hours to start seeing real physical changes in the brain, which also brings me
Which
to
makes sense, because like we're like—
I know. Why am I talking about Kai Cenat?
Okay, dude. So like Kai Cenat, actually, I don't watch him, but I heard that he's been like reading on stream and stuff like that, which is like a huge W. Like, I don't care what anybody else says. It's just nice to actually see somebody like actually taking agency over their own education. And I think that's really awesome. Like, huge W for Kai.
Now, well, if you've never heard of him, he is one of the biggest streamers in the world right now. And recently, alongside his usual streams, he decided to challenge himself to read more. And this wasn't a joke or a bit. He actually literally sat down live in front of 80,000 people every single day and started to read for 15 to 20 minutes a day.
Oh no, I didn't take that as making fun of me 100%. I'm agreeing with you though that the absolute state of YouTube, what has it become? In a roundabout way.
That if I create reasons of why I love her, then it makes me—
I was being sardonic
for her conditional.
a little bit.
And he wasn't even trying to act smart about it, okay? If he didn't know a word, he just stopped and looked it up. He sounded it out. He tried again. Which is
honestly, I hope that the people who watch him actually take like inspiration by how he's conducting himself. because I feel like this is kind of where it starts, where you get like a big cultural figure that actually demands that they take their own agency over themselves. And that type of behavior will soon start, I would say, going down into the regular viewer, and maybe they will take inspiration from that and actually take agency over their own lives and their own education.
Something most people wouldn't even do by themselves, let alone in front of.
And I like that it's genuine, because it doesn't seem that it's not. It doesn't seem that it's forced.
Spontaneity.
Spontaneity. The condition of being spontaneous, spontaneity.
And I don't know, it's kind of nice to see. Like, reading isn't this boring school-only thing anymore, okay? Because whether Kai realizes it or not, he's kind of making learning look normal again. And showing millions of kids that it's okay not to know
normalize
things straight
learning.
away and figure it out as you go.
The reason why I started reading was because I didn't like the way I spoke. Be honest, I wanted to articulate myself better, and I noticed when I got into arguments and had to get a point across, people were not taking me serious at all at serious moments. And I would have anxiety build up, and then I would start over my words and I not know what happened. So hopefully me reading, and I also have been writing as well, helps improve the way I articulate myself.
Huge. Honestly, I don't know if he does writing streams either, but it'd be probably interesting, good content for him to do writing streams as well.
And there's plenty of other people on TikTok doing the same thing. Like
doesn't have to be
Cornelius, who
good,
never
just
went to
write
school
something.
And is now teaching himself how to read.
It's late. Why isn't Steve, my son, home yet? I know he's old enough to take care of himself.
And look, Gen Alpha aren't all brain rot, skibbity toilet, and literacy crises either, okay? Because the old—
There is a huge cohort of Gen Alpha that I hear exist, and maybe not like, you know, maybe relative might be a different story, but I've heard that like, well, I guess it would be relative to how one's perceiving numbers, but there is a large cohort of Gen Alpha that are just completely saying we can't do this anymore. And actually the counterculture is now surrounding becoming more educated and seeking out better means of education.
They're teenagers who are between 11 and 16, care about the environment issues, about animal welfare, and about women's rights. And a survey,
That's
only
pretty big
11%
too.
of parents said their teens show no interest in social causes at all. And that says it all. I mean, this is a generation of people who are aware.
My one warning to that is it's great that you are taking more awareness of social situations. The problem is how do I say this? The problem is you must recognize, I would think, where your more effective value is going to be leveraged more. And almost unanimously and ubiquitously, that's going to be on your local level. You cannot go out and change the world just period unless you can change first your local surroundings. So I'm a little worried with how large scale problems become, I would say, ingrained into the cultural perception, because there are just some things that it doesn't start on a grand level. You must start at a small level, and we kind of lose that.
Of the world around them. They're not always just scrolling mindlessly, they're actually reading the news sometimes, if they can read. Now, while we're talking about reading, I want to show you some of my favorite books. Listen, I like lots of books, but my particularly favorite books
show me the books.
are by Robert Greene. And I have read every Robert Greene books, but my favorite ones are The Laws of Human Nature, The Art of Seduction, and The 48 Laws of Power. If you want something fun to read that has a bit of history, Robert Greene. Or if you want to read something completely random, you could always read The Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx. Great book. Anyway, thank you so much to the people that helped me make this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you. Bye.
We are not a huge Marx agreeer here, but you should definitely read it so that you can, I would say, better articulate yourselves with either why you agree or why you disagree with him. 100%. Definitely should read it, but might be a different approach as to why. You hate that as a kid. I am terrified of the economy, and if its leaders of the world will end the world the next day. Well, I'm going to give you a bit of, I would say, wizened advice. Don't worry about it. Because it doesn't bring you any joy to worry about it. It doesn't bring you any peace of mind to worry about it. And unless you're planning on going into economics as like your degree path in college, if you plan to go to college, or you plan to go into like the military, you have no effective agency over it. So if you're going to be worrying about it all the time, you're going to only be causing yourself undue stress, and it's just better for you in the long run just to not worry about it. Who cares? If it ends tomorrow, it ends tomorrow. So what? If it doesn't end tomorrow, which is more likely the case, then it doesn't end tomorrow and you didn't worry about it. Also, communism only works in theory, not IRL, because as human nature. I don't know if I totally agree with that. I don't think that communism works on a macro scale, period. I think it works on a micro scale because it's dictatorial in nature. But once you start moving it into a macro scale and dictates have to go through large groups of people, you're going to be coming up against what would probably be the natural liberties and natural expressions of human beings that might not even be part of human nature, just might be part of the natural world. It seems it is an unnatural system for an unnatural people, in my opinion. But it is a natural system in like a small, very small grouping of societies. Because at that point, you know your community, you know the people with whom you're helping, and you're more likely to share resources with them. But going back to that, the first comment is you don't need to be terrified about it because you have no agency over it. And once you recognize that you have no agency over it, it doesn't matter anymore because you're not causing it and you can't really go out of your way to fix it. You need to first work on yourself and work on your local situation and then progress past there. Unfortunately, I know of this stuff because I am indulged in history. I know that history does not repeat, it echoes. It rhymes, yeah. Definitely it does. But I think, again, in it rhyming, I think the best thing to look at is there has really been no absolute catastrophic breakdown of society that you can point to where all life ended. Because you can always, and all economy ended because every cycle of human existence always has in it the perpetual regrowth and perpetual coming back of people. You will struggle. It will be probably not comfortable, but you will still exist and there will still be existence after you. So there's no reason to worry about these things unless you are making it your career path to worry about them. All right, let's get into Sydney Watson. Like I said, I like Sydney Watson. She's pretty funny. I think that sometimes sarcasm kind of rules the day with it, and I can deal with a little bit more sarcasm. So let's see what she has to say about Idiocracy tried to warn us. I think I've got a good idea where this is going.
Upset and alarmed by the reality that we live in.
Same.
Hi, my name is Sydney. Welcome.
Hello, Sydney.
Hello. So, in one of my last videos, I discussed the plummeting literacy rates across the United States. Not just for kids, but for adults as well.
And this should be like I said, this should be a complete bipartisan issue. Like there should be no pushback from anybody, from any side, anywhere. Everybody, if you breathe, if you are a human being, if you are born tomorrow, or if you were born 100 years ago, you should all agree on one thing, that is a scary thing.
Oh, Gen Z can't read.
Read the index card.
The dogs.
This, oh my God, this is what I was talking about. I saw this in another video, but this is what I'm talking about.
Unwearing loyalty.
I had to get up and pull up my book of Shakespeare and read passages out of it. I couldn't make it through this grouping of clips, I guess, without actually having to like go away and read something else.
Exemplified and unreproduced.
And it's just like I don't want to laugh at these people because they're victims of a system. They're victims of a system that predated on their educational years. And it's like I can't laugh at them because I'm not laughing at them. Yeah, it's funny that they can't read, haha, but I'm more terrified that they can't read. And I'm more terrified that most people don't see it as a problem.
Yeah. What's that mean?
It means I don't know.
Nothing feels quite as blackpilling as learning that 70% of grade 4 students aren't proficient with words.
I like my thing that I look at it though is like the most white pilling thing is that if you are proficient at words, then you are going to rule the world. Just period. Like if these people can't read, they can't write, they can't think, but you can, that means that you're going to be the one that's going to be leading the world. Tough time makes strong man. Yeah. I mean, like that is kind of the cycle in which we find ourselves, but you know, there's a lot there's a little bit more nuance that goes into, I would say that, but generally speaking, that is the general cycle of it.
Send the asteroid at this point, this experiment has failed. But if we are being honest, these signs of society's collective decline, not just cognitively, but in other ways as well, were there long before we learned that Gen Z is functionally illiterate. I mean, come on, there's still people like this walking among us.
There are as many genders as stars in the sky.
And they just keep expanding that
yeah,
acronym.
MMIWG2SLGBTQQIA+.
During my video about
I know a lot of people in Gen Alpha, a lot of people in general are just done with this stuff. Like, and they kind of did it to themselves. Like, just straight up. It's just like, dude, I don't want to hear about it. Of course, I'm talking to a straw man. It's like, I don't want to hear about it anymore. Yeah, I don't need to hear about it. Like, I don't care. It's not my thing. Like, I think I've been pretty clear on, I don't care what you do. Just don't be an asshole. John D. Rockefeller funded the American education system. No, you're 100% right. And there's a lot of quotes. I can't really quote them because they're made historically of their time. But there's a lot of quotes that really shine a light into some of the more insipid, I would say, maybe not insipid, that might be the wrong word, more short-sighted, I think would be a better word for it, ways in which people in the past thought. But that definitely didn't help, for sure.
I referenced the 2006 Idiocracy film several times, making jokes about how it was actually kind of prophetic. Other people have also made the same point over the years. I'm not claiming this is my own idea, but today I think that statement is truer than ever.
So wait, hang on. Idiocracy, a disturbing prophetic look at the future of America and our era of stupidity. No, like I said, I think, like I had suggested earlier, people have been predicting this for a while, but I think the most spot-on version of it, again, comes from Isaac Asimov, the Foundation series. I think it was the Foundation series, but it might be the iRobot series. I mean, they kind of all mix together because they're all in the same chronology. For those of you who don't know, I guess I'll give a little explanation of it. There's these places called the spacer worlds, which are colonies that are on other planets outside of the Earth, and on them it is basically it's taboo for face-to-face interactions. They have only interactions with robots and through screens with other people, and they get incredibly uncomfortable and a lot of other down the line effects of talking to somebody face-to-face. And it's very interesting when you look at that and say, wow, we're actually kind of getting there. And like I said, that was written in the 40s.
This is my own idea, but today I think that statement is truer than ever. Because regrettably, we are living in a time where young people would rather become a YouTuber than do anything meaningful with their lives. That's true. This is not a joke. This is a statistically backed...
I mean, if you want to become a YouTuber, that's fine. If that's your dream to become a YouTuber, I mean, I'm not going to blame anybody for that. I don't think that's like the problem. I think the problem is we're not venerating the professions nearly as much like the more, I would say, necessary professions such as teacher, scientist. I mean, it says astronaut here, as much as we need to. Like, I don't know. I think that has something to do with human nature, though, because obviously I think it's a mixture of personality types that go into it. And maybe there's a disproportionate amount of certain different types of personality types. And of course, I'm using that as like a soft science. There's no hard science on personality types, but that go into entertainment that become more entertaining to watch, and those who do other things such as like, we'll just say for instance, like teaching might not be as entertaining.
Fact.
And we as humans kind of look towards that.
If you haven't seen Idiocracy, I do recommend giving it a watch, not only for context, but also because it's just a fun movie. And we know we aren't allowed those anymore. For the
I think it's free on YouTube.
Idiocracy is a satirical sci-fi film that is originally set in the year 2005. The protagonist, Joe, an American soldier of aggressively average intelligence, is cryo-frozen during a military experiment alongside a woman of the night called Rita. When the experiment's leading man is arrested for his involvement in a schmosh-to-schmooshin ring, the project is disbanded, leaving Joe and Rita forgotten for the next 500 years. So when Joe and Rita wake up in the year 2505, they discover a completely different and exceptionally dumb world that is borderline collapsing in on itself. Instead of flying cars, there are enormous mountains of rubbish everywhere, everywhere. Corporate greed has reached exponential levels with advertising everywhere and anywhere, including on clothes.
This is ridiculous right here. Like, this definitely reminds me of YouTube. I've been getting some like ridiculous ads on YouTube. I'm not going to lie.
In hospitals, even in the White House.
Welcome to Costco. I love you.
The English language has completely deteriorated, much like we
also in the universities, you and me are the rarest thing, biological creatures and non-creatures, anything biological. So think twice before doing a permanent solution to a temporary problem. I see what also in all the universe. Yeah, I mean, I could see that. Oh, it is mental health month. I forgot about that.
I don't know what dress to get. My other dress like
It
didn't
is.
get
It
here.
is.
Should I wear like the sparkly dress, or should I get
Water has been replaced with a sports drink of
Brondo
sorts
the
called
thirst
Brondo.
milliliter.
There are
Oh my
slot
God.
machines in the hospital to win medical care. Everything is sexualized into oblivion, including stores basically doing schmosh-to-schmooshin, like Starbucks and H&R Block.
I just cannot believe, like, it's so funny because it was profound at its time, and we did not know how profound this movie was.
You could really go for a Starbucks, you know?
Yeah, well, I really don't think we have time for a hand job, Joe.
Intelligence tests
Imagine.
are toddler puzzles, and the only forms of entertainment are ultra-violent, hypersexualized, and highly commercialized, with television channels called the Violence Channel and the Masturbation Network. Terrific. And all of this happened because the well-educated people had fewer and fewer children because they are being considerate of the environment or their particular circumstances, while the undereducated and maybe even potentially not super
I didn't know there was one until last year, so that's so sad. No, it's one of those things that a lot of people don't know about because nobody really talks about it, which is unfortunate. And I know that there's a lot of movements trying to, I guess, incorporate more like men's mental health, but you know, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, it's been co-opted by so many different things that it's nearly impossible to parse through all the like muck that's being thrown about. But at the end of the day, I think everybody can just generally agree that it is good and valuable to concentrate on men's health.
smart at all. People rapidly procreated because they don't care.
My first wife was targeted. She's a pilot now.
In short, the collective IQ of everybody has been lowered due to a lack of natural selection, or due to natural selection. I guess it depends on what your perspective is on that one, leaving Joe and Rita to be the most intelligent people alive. And it's not really hard to see why. Their 2505 counterparts are putting Brondo on the crops and wondering why they can't grow any food.
But Brondo's got what plants crave.
It's got electrolytes.
Through a series
Oh
of
my God. This movie's like flooding back to me. And it's just like, I can't, like, I know people in real life who are like these people.
Joe is found to be the smartest
And they were
person
supposed to be
alive
comic,
and is eventually sent
like,
to meet the president, where he
comically
then is made a
overplayed
member
stereotypes.
of the president's cabinet and is charged with fixing the non-existent economy, the mountains of rubbish, and resolving the famine that is plaguing the country, one that is caused by
New water, like from the
feeding
toilet.
the plants Brondo. Unfortunately, Joe trying to explain to these people that you have to give water to plants to make them grow kind of feels a little bit like trying to explain to a progressive that men can't be women.
It's a spectrum, so like a lot.
Can you name me a few?
You can be man, female, you could be, there's so many.
This is sort of like how I keep having to tell all of you that you need a VPN in the year of our Lord 2026, and you can have one thanks to the
Hell
sponsor
yeah,
of today's
VPN.
video, Surfshark. Alright lads, let's get started. Would anyone like to share? She got a VPN last month. I could still see some of her Google searches at least. Mine got one too. At least I could still see what
You're
country
Australian, you
she's
don't have an
pretending
FBI
to be
agent.
in. Mine got Surfshark. Oh, I know. It's like she put
You have
the
a
whole
CIA
internet
agent.
into
Those are
witness
worse.
protection. No logs, no leaks, no nothing. I just stare at my screen and it's just
Uh-oh.
darkness. Pure, encrypted darkness.
I don't
How
know.
long has it been, mate, since she got Surfshark? 3 months, 4 days, and 11 hours since I've been able to glimpse her Google searches.
Man.
I used to know what she was doing when she was stress baking
I
at
just
1
still
a.m.
can't
because of
believe
her
that we've made it
recipe
to a
queries.
point.
Her brownie recipe queries. Now it's just
in
a
our
digital
existence
black
that
hole.
I have to say that Idiocracy might
Well,
actually
at
have
least you've got the memories.
profoundly
I had
predicted where
everything,
we're at.
Damn it! I knew all her private information, her email addresses. I
scary.
even had some of her passwords.
Oh my god, you got a
Now she
PlayStation
gets
5 in the
ad-free
background?
browsing.
Look at
I bet
that.
they even get alerts when they're involved in a data breach. Probably not the best time
Hell
to bring that
yeah.
up. She could use Surfshark on as many devices as she wants from the one subscription. She can even access geo-blocked content that's not available in this country. She can use it to get onto Netflix in different countries and access their content. Well, she's got to use public Wi-Fi at some stage. That's probably a chance to find her again. No, you don't understand. She even has protections for that. She's a digital ghost. There, buddy. Genuinely, it's gonna be all right. Maybe we'll try therapy tomorrow with the Google Analytics guys. So if you are ready to break up with your FBI man and cut off his stalking habits, then click the link in the description or go to surfshark.com/Sydney. And don't forget to use code Sydney to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. Anyway,
all right, back to the
looking
video.
at this movie from a 2006 perspective, I'm sure that it was quite funny and not at all depressing. At the time, technology hadn't exploded in the same way that it has now. You know, we still had dial-up, I think, maybe. We didn't have
I mean, people still today have dial-up, I'm pretty sure. Let me see, how many people still have dial-up? Around 200,000 households still rely on dial-up internet. Insane. That's crazy. That's crazy. Oh boy. Actually, let's get back to this. Oh, boom. Sorry, I had to manipulate my tabs there.
There wasn't all of these social media platforms.
I mean, at that time, most people still had regular
people still prioritized
internet.
Intelligence, and corporations hadn't fully taken everything over yet. No. And I'm also pretty sure that most people could still read. But a lot.
It's interesting because it's just like, remembering the time in which it released, like you could see the seeds of where we're at have been laid definitely in retrospective, because like when you're retroactively looking at like what was happening at the time, yeah, you can see the direction in which that goes. However, if you were paying attention at the time, you would have been called crazy, but you'd have been close to where we were at, because there were some people who were yelling about it.
Has changed.
They
in
were
20
called
years,
crazy.
And maybe our world is reflecting idiocracy more and more as time wears on.
Mhm.
I don't know why I'm saying maybe. I'm pretty sure that's what's happening. And the thing is, if we don't learn from this and course correct now, we're in for a bad time.
You know why being overweight is one of the smartest things you could do? Just imagine.
Please tell me.
Imagine a zombie apocalypse and there's no food left. Overweight people keep all the food in their belly. Therefore, they would live
That's a wild take, by the way.
longer than people who aren't overweight.
I don't believe it, because if you lose all of the accoutrement of like regular existence, I think you're going to have a hard time making sure that you keep everything up, especially after all the power's gone out.
Okay, it's possible we're already there. One of the things that's very obvious about this movie, and I'm not sure if it was intentional or not, is that it is a reflection of what happens when people lean into their worst possible impulses all of the time. The idiots in this film aren't
Which we're encouraging, by the way. We are actively encouraging this type of behavior.
The unintelligent half-wits. They are driven to constantly seek any form of stimulation that they can. To the extent that sessions being held at the White House are treated like a Thunderdome event, and when Joe fails to immediately fix—
I mean, they kind of basically are a Thunderdome event now. Like we've celebritized our people in politics, our politicians so much that it's just like, it has not become a measure of policy. It has become a measure of performance. They can't run. No, they can't run like that. That's where we were getting to with less words.
The dying crop issue, they condemn him to death via monster truck rally, because this population is so mentally fried that even a death sentence has to be nth degree entertaining. And not only that, but they're so impatient for a result, in the case of the crops, they can't function without immediate gratification. Now, children, who does that—
Yeah, who does that sound like? Yeah, there it is. Who does that sound like?
It's us. It sounds like us. Well, not us, as in this community on this channel.
No,
We're
it sounds
obviously
like the
perfect and
generation that's
infallible,
growing up right now.
Everybody else. Of course, this is just one example from a movie that is full of oddly specific, kind of prophetic examples. But there are more, like cars turning off when citizens do something wrong.
Well, the scariest one for me is in this movie, they get caught because his arm, whatever it is, he had like a cereal bar on his arm, got scanned by a vending machine and alerted the police to where he was. That is the most terrifying to me.
That in 2027 onwards, cars will have kill switches in them.
By the way, this, I really, really, really want there to be a class action lawsuit against this or some type of like adjudication from the Supreme Court, because I believe this violates people's civil liberties. Like, say what you want about the ACLU. I very much dislike the ACLU, but this is one of those cases where the ACLU should be stepping in and getting involved, because this is violative of, on so many different levels, in my opinion, of civil liberties. Yes, the downstream effects of something like this happening is that it might prevent drunk driving incidences, but even further downstream from that, I am afraid of how one could leverage that power to deperson somebody for a political reason. That's even scarier to me.
Love that. Brawndo Corp, the electrolyte drink, bought the FDA and other government agencies and now
Man, imagine.
dictate what is health and what is not. In
Imagine.
2026, we know how much lobbying major corporations do, and so in a way they sort of might as well own areas of government. Especially all those pesticide companies who keep trying to people who are trying to unseat them. Government leaders in this movie are obviously
Also, seed companies, surprisingly enough, have like a huge like copyright power on their own seeds, which is just insane to me.
so deeply unintelligent.
So you can't even grow like your stuff without paying for their copyright.
Again, in real life, we have a member of the Supreme Court right now who couldn't even define the word woman.
Can you provide a
This was insane. This entire interview was insane.
definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition? No.
Yeah, it should be simple.
Yeah.
I can't.
Imagine.
You can't?
Candidate for highest court in the land. Wait, where was she pushed through? God willing, she's not. Okay, good. No, she's not on the Supreme Court.
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
And who could forget
Jesus.
Kamala's word salads, or Biden just wandering around confused for the majority of his presidency?
I just love them for so many reasons. Maybe because I went to school on a school bus.
And you ain't black.
It obviously doesn't
Thank you,
help when
Biden.
we have politicians like AOC trying to seem more relatable by using unnecessary slang that makes absolutely no sense, like her recent declaration to pull up to the South.
Oh, Jesus Christ, dude. I can't deal with politicians like this. I want to go back to the era of politicians being like uptight, stodgy assholes who like only focused on policy and that was their main focus. Like, please, can we go back to the time where like policy debate actually didn't have anything to do with popularity?
Or whatever.
What action can I take? It is time for the North to pull up to the South.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
The interesting thing about Idiocracy is it opens with the idea that evolution doesn't necessarily reward the most intelligent, but those who can reproduce the most, making intelligent people an endangered species. And hearing this on my latest watch through, I couldn't help but think of movements like 4B, for example, that has women subscribing to...
By the way, that was all co-opted from Korea. By the way, I don't think that it translated well over boundaries because we don't face the same political challenges and same political climate as South Korea. So that was an interesting like merger that kind of, at least in my opinion, kind of failed to mix.
Tenets that basically all revolve around not having babies, or the idea that Western countries need to import.
I mean, at least I'm gonna say grim take on the situation. Go for it. Don't have babies. I'm okay with that.
Third world labor force to
the problem
accommodate
will
our
fix
declining
itself.
birth rates. Depressingly, most of this labor is actually unskilled and not that smart. Idiocracy successfully highlighted what wide-scale collective incompetence gets us, and in a lot of ways, it's just as alarming and dystopian as massive government overreach. But more than that, Idiocracy makes me wonder about the way we consume content these days, because it shows us people strapped to their chairs watching TV nonstop to the extent that they have toilets in their chairs. cares? Our current content setups let us scroll from one short video to the next, shortening our attention spans and killing our dopamine receptors. We consume so much low quality short form content and nobody seems to think this is a problem. I mean, realistically, this is to the extent.
Well, again, like I said, this is kind of like causing another issue where the short form content's kind of frying somebody's brain and not allowing them to, I would say, get a reprieve or be able to, filter out what is and isn't garbage data, essentially, to be able to remember. And I say this as like, I really don't like short form content. Like, I've done some shorts here on YouTube, but I'm going to be completely honest. I probably do need to do more because they definitely help grow a lot, but I don't like doing it because editing it's a freaking nightmare in my opinion. But I think that short form content definitely does a lot more damage than we recognize.
Where people tell other people to go touch grass because so many people today are so engrossed in social media and the online world that they simply don't do that anymore. Or social media platforms have to actually remind people and tell people to stop scrolling.
Ignored, by the way.
To get up and
I'm gonna bet you in most cases
and get some air. No, Simon, that is not a joke. We've talked on this channel before about the dangers of social media and TikTok and short form content. We've also talked about the lessening interest in pursuits like reading and proficiency with words, which I'm not going to reiterate because I literally just talked about this the other day. And this over-reliance on content and entertainment and not engaging with literature and books and actually interacting with people is leading to some incredibly negative outcomes, and it's even given us the infamous Gen Z stare, which I've brought up before as well. Can you guys blink, maybe?
I honestly don't know where that stare comes from, by the way, because I've heard about that. And I've been, victim is the wrong word, but I've participated in the Gen Z stare competition essentially, and I don't know where that comes from. Like, I get it, like that it happens. I just don't know what it's about.
I recently stumbled upon this clip of a university student who couldn't spell the word business.
University student.
Didn't know the sum of 45 and 55 and
business student.
Seemed to have the cognitive capabilities of a sim.
What do you study? I do business. Business, yeah. Spell business. B-I-S-S.
No.
I-N-S. Business.
Obviously, this is just one person in one clip, but it's
yeah,
not
it could be
hard
cherry
to
picked.
find so many others that are.
Well, yeah, there's so many now anecdotal like evidences of people who are like this that it almost seems nearly impossible to cherry pick enough of these people out.
Just like this. People being asked simple questions to do simple arithmetic, and I'm terrible at maths, by the way, and even I can do some of these equations off the top of my head. People are just incapable of doing anything that requires any level of intellectual thinking. And I know I keep saying this, but I come back to the fact that a lot of this is being spurred forward by the content and entertainment that we are consuming. We're at the point where even the entertainment that's on television and in the box office and the movies and films and whatever that we watch are being dumbed down to accommodate people being...
That's another huge problem. Oh my God, don't even get me started on this. Like, so I really like film. I really like indie film specifically, but I like film as well. Like, I like the classics. I like watching old film. Hell, I got fucking Charlie Chaplin films floating around somewhere. I love watching that stuff. And it is insane to me the difference that 10 years makes, right? So like, take a movie that's pre-COVID. It is paced and done so differently than a movie that has come out within the last 5 to 10 years that is obnoxious. Like, I can barely stand watching like some of the more big budget productions anymore because, and obviously there's a lot of things that people talk about with it, but they say that it's made for second screen viewing. I can't stand it. I cannot stand the mentality of making something for second screen viewing. If you don't believe in your product so much, then don't fucking make the product. Make something that I want to get lost in. Make something that I want to watch, something that I want to pay attention to. Don't depend on making something that's just good enough to be background noise. Oh, that makes me angry.
Functionally unable to concentrate. We've talked
Mhm.
before on this channel about Matt Damon and Ben Affleck talking about the dumbing down of movies to keep people interested, because these two men inherently know that viewers are going to be on their phones while watching a film, meaning most
I went to go see Jaws not too long ago. One of my theaters around in the area where was doing a classics week, and Jaws was one of them. And it was so refreshing to watch that in the theaters because it was so different than any of the fucking slop that's been being put out by Hollywood. It was nearly a transcendent experience.
of the dialogue must repeat over and over what is happening for those who simply can't be bothered to pay attention. And as a result, the entire film industry, it seems, has shifted from creative, complex narratives to copy-paste formulas because people...
The millennial dialogue writing, the millennial dialogue options.
Just are
Nothing can be taken seriously. Sincerity is something that should be chagrined.
not going to pay attention. They want something that's familiar and easy to digest. Hence why we have 5 Shreks and Toy Stories and a million other zombie-like franchises. Writing
Walking around in the skin suit of past franchises.
all over the place.
Do you remember this? Okay. If you don't remember it, come in, it's friendly.
Is being dumbed down because audiences are more distracted than ever. And then we have stuff like this, which is apparently called music, and you know, I think
Okay.
this just proves that we've lost the culture war with ourselves and everyone who's lived before us, because what the fuck? I wish
Yeah,
I
what the
could
hell
play
am I
the song for
watching?
you, but I'm hoping from the visuals and what this person looks like
Oh no, I can hear that. I can hear that without any song. I can hear what it sounds like.
that you're getting a good indication.
Like I don't like being the type of person that kind of sounds like Stan from South Park, where basically they were like everything's just basically shitting into the microphone, shitting onto a fucking like screen. But they're making me into that type of person.
Of what it sounds like, because it's not good. But you know, at least instead of media being slapstick comedy and basically anything of the lowest tier like in Idiocracy, we get to have reboot apocalypses and making
They're like completely bad. They completely rewrite all of the characters. They treat the franchise like garbage. They tell the fans who have been fans of it from the beginning to go F themselves like Jesus.
everything gay.
President, have you made a decision?
I have. It's time to nuke Russia.
These papas are non-binary.
Okay.
They love each other so proudly.
But what Idiocracy shows us is not too far away from where
Okay.
we are right now.
I just got flashbanged by that. I'm sitting here. It was Jesus.
In the film, the most popular show is
It's
called
All
Down
My
My Balls, and
Balls.
the newest Oscar-winning movie is a single 90-minute shot of a naked butt.
That sounds about
in
right.
2006, this probably seemed really funny and really
Yeah, in 2006, this was so ridiculous. It was so funny. It's like, haha, there's no way that this could happen. Imagine 20 years later.
goofy, but look at what is
shit.
being produced today. I know I randomly spawn sometimes into these videos with glasses, but I was trying to read something and now they're on my face and they're gonna leave those little marks on my nose, so maybe I'll just leave them on. I don't know, maybe there's too much glare. We know content has to be more and more extreme to get eyeballs, including the uptick in online mattress actressing, which has given us extreme challenges like sleeping with hundreds of men in 20
Oh, that's also ruining society.
hours.
I don't even want to touch that like problem with a 10-foot pole because it's just like I have a lot of opinions on that and they're probably very I mean, I would say that they're counterculture for sure, but they're becoming a lot more prevalent in online societies. I think that it probably is more of a manifestation of how we got here. And it really does seem like if you're a student of history, there's a certain period in 1930s Germany, 1920s Germany that preceded another incredibly bad period of history that kind of is analogous to where we're at.
The Mr. Beasts of the world
It gets
are
me real
blasting you with
real
so much
worried
color
because
and
people are
fast-moving
creating their
visuals as
own
humanly possible.
creating their
we have
own
influencers bashing their faces with
demons,
hammers
I guess,
to
would
look
probably be the best
better
way
and
of
get
saying
better
it.
looking draws, and streamers showing you their weird BDSM
This was insane.
situations.
This was an
I still don't know
insane
what's going on
clip.
here. TikTokers are out in public harassing total strangers or service people in restaurants and shops. And if that isn't bad enough, one key characteristic of people in Idiocracy is a lack of awareness, a lack of
A lack of caring, a lack of literally any type of
impulse
socialization.
control, and a tendency towards violence. They often act like giant toddlers, throwing fits when they don't get their way, which is something we
sneeze.
see all over social media, from college campuses to random street fights that go
never mind.
viral.
Wait.
I'm not gonna lie, guys, when we have people throwing
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh god. My sinuses.
hands at a kindergarten
okay.
graduation, I think we may have reached a
Wait, kindergarten graduation brawl leaves one injured and one behind. Okay, why? Why are we fighting at kindergarten? Mr. Beast ruined YouTube. To be honest, I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know that much about. I've never seen a Mr. Beast video in my life. I've never gone out of my way to watch Mr. Beast, and I think that Mr. Beast probably did do a lot of harm to YouTube, but only in the corporate side. I think that like the spirit of YouTube still lives on in small creators that like want to do stuff, creators that make like substantive content, or even creators that like you enjoy listening to their opinions of. So I'm not so worried about that. And I don't think that I can blame solely Mr. Beast, because that's a two-way street, right? He brought in a lot of money for the platform, but in addition to that, the platform also made the choice to chase the more Mr. Beast mentality of it. That's wild. My opinion on that is wild. I mean, it might be. I don't know. Like, I don't really watch a lot of like the super popular creators, not saying that I'm like some type of like special person. I just never, I'm always out of the loop on that type of stuff, because I always tend to go more towards like the 2 to 3 hour documentary type of style of YouTube stuff. So my YouTube algorithm's been like absolutely curated through, oh my God, I'm going to date myself, but through 2.5 decades of watching YouTube. So I have been able to avoid most of that stuff.
new level of idiocy. But the last thing that I want to mention here, that I've already touched on a little bit, is the commentary on corporations and advertising. In this movie, advertising is out of control, and 75% of the population works for a single mega company, Brondo. As so many other people have pointed out, the advertising
He made content
thing
slot
was
popular,
especially prophetic
and that's the wild thing about the kindergarten thing. I mean, I could see that. Yeah, I'm gonna have probably maybe a little bit of an unpopular opinion, but I don't think slop's all that bad. People need entertainment somewhere, right? People need to have entertainment from something, and slop isn't what I would consider to be like as bad of like the thing as most people think it is. Sure, it's probably not great, but there's a slop in every generation. It's just going to be a thing that happens. It's when slop becomes prioritized over actual content. And I think that comes more from like the corporate side than it does from the creator side, because creators are reacting to what's being pushed, and what's being pushed is being pushed by the corporate. So really, YouTube's at fault for ruining themselves because they were short-sighted. And I don't know where I'm going with it. I'm just kind of talking, I guess. But I think that Mr. Beast is definitely a problem, or rather the beastification of content was definitely a problem, but it's not entirely his fault. I think that not blaming YouTube adequately enough is probably what we should be doing. We should be saying, hey, this is actually your fault. You're the ones pushing it.
Because by today's standards, advertising is everywhere, and we live in a very advertising-friendly world, and there is just no escaping it. It's funny that I say this because I know that a bunch of people feel like that about YouTube, and I totally get it. I also feel like this personally with relation to Amazon. You can buy products
And Netflix.
while you're watching Amazon Prime shows and movies
Oh, Jesus.
from the television or on your laptop or wherever you're watching it.
By the way, that's terrifying. If you're watching something and you can see like an advertisement for the products that's got obvious product placement in the actual show, like, holy fuck, dude. Like, really? Oh my God.
It's just that, I don't know, that feels
That's
like really
ridiculous. That gets
dystopian
me.
to me. In Idiocracy,
Yeah, a little bit.
we see advertising like this billboard, for example, that says, if you don't smoke tarlatans, F you, which in a way feels sort of emblematic of advertising these days, where you're made to feel bad if you don't buy a certain product, except that now they're just using activism to sell everything. Thankfully,
If I'm told to buy something, I go out of my way not to do it. Like if I'm told that I have to believe something or believe something, like believe one way, like if I'm told that I'm a bad person, if I have to believe it, if I'm told I'm a bad person, if I don't buy it, my immediate reaction is, okay, well, I'm going to do that then. Mostly because I did not get put here on this earth in order to be told what to believe. I was put here on this earth to believe how I want to believe without anybody telling me what to do. So if anybody ever tells me that, I just go out of my way, just completely like disregard that and say, I'm not going to believe that. I'm just going to believe the opposite now. You've created your own monster. It's your fault.
just come out of the period of time where 900 they-thems were trying to sell you jumpers. But what other people have pointed out, and what I'd like to point out as well, is how, in an extremely ironic twist, Idiocracy's scathing attack on megacorporations was so on the money that Fox decided it was better for them.
Yeah, Fox tried to kill it, by the way. Fox just said, no, we're not going to release it, but then they were contractually obligated to release it in theaters, so they released it like, I don't know, in like a very few amount of them, they made it basically go direct to DVD. It was ridiculous.
$2.5 million they spent
In like a
making
funny
the
way.
movie
It's like, okay.
and actually let people see it.
They try to write it
Idiocracy
off.
makes fun of outfits like Starbucks and Carl's Jr.
Mhm.
These brands probably signed on to the project thinking that they'd be venerated like normal,
Nope.
but they weren't. Idiocracy even took aim at Fox News, making fun of it and having its reporters do news partially naked. 20th Century
Imagine.
Fox probably realized they are going to get their heads kicked in by advertisers and made the decision instead to bury this movie, releasing it in as few cinemas as
They fear
legally
it.
possible and doing zero advertising for it. It is remarkable that this film even saw the light of day at all. Since 2006, the power and the influence of megacorporations and advertising has only gotten stronger, and probably going forward, that's just going to continue. Now we have megacorporations that have more control than ever before, especially after the pandemic, and you have all of these people that they employ, all of these people who are dependent on these corporations, who defend them, who will vote against their own interests in favor of corporations, and it...
There is, if you know, you know, there is a great quote that's attributed to a Democratic senator in the mid-century. I think it's the 1960s. And whether or not they actually said it is up for speculation. I'm not going to repeat it because I can't. But the mentality that that articulates is exactly how most people think about you as a normal human being.
just, it kind of boggles my mind. I could make an entire video talking about just this, but I think for today I have talked enough. Not to be a negative Nancy, but I think in a lot of ways we are absolutely regressing in the same way that
We are.
Idiocracy said that we would. In intelligence, behavior, the kind of people we vote for, the kind of music we listen to, the kind of content that we consume, all of this year on year is in a lot of ways getting worse and worse. And there's this feeling that we have to settle because we know that things are not going to get better. It's as if we all have to settle for mediocrity and sameness because nobody is allowed to be better than anybody else. And that's just such a losing strategy. And now that we have AI, we have technology thinking for people, which I think is just pushing us more and more towards the cliff of stupidity.
Exactly, because it's making it so that people don't have to think, which is just like,
you don't really have to remember anything
like, come on,
at
guys.
all or try hard when you can just ask a search engine or go onto the AI.
why
and
be
make it
uncomfortable
talk to
thinking
you.
the way that
don't
you
really
want to
need
do,
study for hours
thinking the way
or
that
go
you
to
should,
school or go to university when
when you
have
can be
these
comfortable and let
massive
AI do it
thinking
for you.
machines at your disposal doing everything for you. In the end,
Hey,
similarly
ChatGPT,
to
what's my opinion
Idiocracy,
on this?
I think many of the
Okay, cool.
conveniences of modern tech are lulling us into a false sense of security and, more importantly, a sense of complacency. We spend our time depleting our brains rather than enriching
channel's
them,
only popular
and
because of the shorts.
although
I mean,
Idiocracy is supposed to be funny
I don't know
and
if
a
you've noticed, but I only have
satirical bit on what could
226
happen if we
subscribers.
let
I wouldn't say that I'm
intelligence
super
die out,
popular.
I think that the way that we're heading is
My best
not
tip-
great as far
My best tip for, I would say, anything is just be you and don't care about your growth. Because as soon as you start getting lost in the metrics and you stop doing or you start doing everything specifically for metric growth, then you lose all of your personality. And a lot of people usually tune into people for who they are, not for the presentation. That's the harder way to do it, but it's the more proper way to do it, in my opinion.
As upkeeping and
But they gotta take it with a grain of salt.
Smartness and making sure that people value being intelligent and having skills that are actually usable in the real world. So with that said, while we can have a laugh at Idiocracy, I think that it serves more as a warning.
And shorts are
signal
always going to be
rather
popular
than
because they're
a
shorts.
comedy.
More people
Now,
watch them.
on that very happy and pleasant note, and before I open the floor to all of you, this is just a reminder to check out Surfshark using the link in the description. I have used Surfshark for
All right,
years.
thank you,
They're
Surfshark.
the only VPN that I have ever had sponsor me on this channel because I really like what they do. The team is also super lovely. So if you are in need of a new VPN, absolutely check them out. Now I open the floor to all of you. What do you all think? Have you seen Idiocracy? And if you
I have.
do you agree with my
I have seen it
assessment
multiple
where it's sort
times.
of laying out, and it's truer and truer year on year, it's laying out all of the ways that society could get upended if we don't start paying attention and improving ourselves. Do you think that, no, it's just a silly comedy and a lot of what's in it is just totally crazy and way over the top? Have you not seen the movie and maybe this makes you want to watch it because you're concerned about what's in it?
I think it's
and
free
what is
on
happening
YouTube.
to society? And what do you generally make of this issue
I think.
overall? As always, if you have made it this far in the video, congratulations. I always like having you along for the full ride. If you are new here, you're not subscribed already, and you'd like to see more of me and more of this kind of content, feel free to subscribe to the channel, as well as leaving this video a like and a comment.
I
because
should be
do
asking
read
for
the
those
majority
things
of them, and I
too.
like hearing your feedback. Like I always say, my wonderful little chickadee people,
But I
hope
don't.
you stay safe and well, and
I don't
make
know. I
good
still haven't gotten
choices,
over the
and I will
mental
see
block
your
of doing
beautiful
that.
little faces
I probably
in
should
the next
though.
video.
All right. Thank you very much, Sydney Watson. We're going to move on to some more game stuff, which is what I usually generally cover. But first, I must take a couple of seconds. I have to go.
Something fairly new is.
I have to go do something here real quick. I need to make sure. I need to check on my dogs. I'll be right back. Oh. I think they got into something. I think I heard them. Okay, they're all good. I just knocked something over. We were able to pick it up. Let's see. Also, YouTube is deleting channels penned by minors. Well, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, they were trying to do an 18 up platform, which, you know, makes sense. You love dogs? I've got two. I got a medium-sized one, and I got a small little guy. One's 10 years old. They're a shepherd breed. Okay. All right. Let's get back into the spirit. We're talking about game news. All right. So what are we talking about? Sorry. I got like flashbanged. We got to recenter. All right, we are going to be talking about, oh, I remember. Okay, so this is going to be talking about how most games nowadays are older games that people are talking about. So let's see.
It's happening more and more these days, and actually I think it's pretty damn good. Today the main things we're talking about are new DLC for an 11-year-old game and a brand new game-changing patch for a 16-year-old game.
Imagine.
These are the main examples.
Who would have thought?
There's more than this going on in the
Oh yeah, Age of Empires. This is AoE 3, I think. Maybe. It looks like AoE 3, but it could be. I know AoE 2. AoE 2 is huge right now.
industry. The Witcher 3, Songs of the Past, and StarCraft 2 are both in the headlines.
Really?
Which is kind of absurd, right? And it's not for remakes or remasters. Quite simply, we're getting new updates for games that were already old at the turn of the decade. And I think it reveals something about the games industry right now.
Yeah, because all the games that they've been making are absolute dog shit.
Picture, the gaming audience
Nobody wants to play them. Nobody
really
asked for them.
playing new games. And of course, new games are taking longer and longer to produce, and they're getting more and more expensive.
Yeah.
And for a long time, that's driven remakes.
And they're designed by committee, and nobody wants to play something that they feel HR's in the room watching over their shoulder for.
And remasters, but today, it's
Man, imagine how that
going
works.
Further, we're getting brand new content to games that we've already been playing and we already own. And if this trend catches on and is actually done right, it could be really good for the health of the industry and for the games that we play. The Witcher 3 Songs of the Past has been rumored for years by this stage, and it won't actually be out until 2027, but it is exactly what you'd think it is. It's a brand new, blood and wine sized narrative expansion for The Witcher 3. So very much not
Never played
like
The
one
Witcher,
of
to
those
be
tiny
completely honest.
Netflix show update things that they did. Meanwhile then, for StarCraft, it's just getting a patch on its public test realm, which in itself isn't extremely unusual. They actually tend to do one of these like every 1 or 2 years. Like there was a 2024 patch that changed 14 units, 10 buildings, and added 2 new abilities, which was pretty good.
That's
but
pretty
this
big,
current
actually.
patch
So wait, hang on. So this was for StarCraft, right? That's actually a pretty major patch for that old of a game. Like, man, that's huge.
10 buildings and added 2 new abilities.
Is this a rare Blizzard W?
Which was pretty good, but this current patch really is something else. It's changing units across all 3 factions. There are core economy changes for resources and workers, different worker start amounts, and loads more. As an example, there's a full rebuild of mechanics like how the
This might be indicative of a greater trend in the industry, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Because I know that there's a lot of games that are still seeing support, like in like a considerable way. And it's kind of interesting because hopefully this trends more towards a recentering of the games industry in the sense that older games get more support, obviously are played more, and we start losing that have to get the new thing mentality that the developers seem to be chasing.
Gateway works, which basically changes one of the core gameplay pillars of the Protoss faction. That's absolutely huge, and along with it there's some quality of life improvements and bug fixes. Pretty damn big. It's a fundamental reworking, it's driven by a lot of feedback, though obviously it's not out yet.
I've never
It's on
played
the test
StarCraft
realm.
though,
Not
so I mean,
every change
still
is
seems big, though.
exactly perfect, but what's been undeniable is how staggered that game's audience has been by how much the game's actually been altered. And that's because within the community we really saw StarCraft 2 as being a bit of a dead game to Blizzard and one that we would have to prop up and keep alive. Very much not the case, it would seem. And while these are 2 pretty neat examples,
Although I'm kind of worried because it's Blizzard, so it's like now I'm kind of like wondering what they're going to fuck up.
they're not even the first games to get updates and content like this in 2026. Okay, let's see how this new wave of updates is going. We're not really talking about remakes or remasters here. Those
Yeah,
are
'cause you
a
can't really
different
talk
thing.
about
They're an
those.
endless tide. We're getting Star Fox, Gothic 1, and a few others in just this month.
Honestly, I kind of want to play Gothic 1. Like, I never played Gothic when it was out, but like, it looked pretty okay from the game shows. I might end up picking it up. We'll see how that goes. I'll have to see what see what it's like and tell everybody how I feel about it.
And of course, we know why that happens, and we've got some numbers. These come from surveys from MTM Consulting that were surfaced by GameIndustry.biz, and they show that 90% of gamers play remakes or remasters. That's hardly a surprise. I count on that 90%. Chances are you do. But
You're recording right now? That's funny. All right, almost all gamers played a remake or a remaster, and most find them appealing. Okay, I mean that makes sense. Extremely appealing, very appealing. Okay, so this is just like, yeah, huge majority for that, huh?
Of that 90%, 85% are playing games that they never played in their original
That makes sense.
form. So what that means is many of these game designs truly are timeless, and as long as people can play them in a vaguely modern fashion, they can actually do really well, and they can...
That's why I wanted to get the Demon Souls remake. Like I said, I never got a chance to get the Demon Souls remake because I never got a PlayStation 5, unfortunately. But like, I wanted to play because I never had a PlayStation 3 to play the Demon Souls original game. So it's like, man, I really want to be able to play that on PC, but I can understand this. Like, I'm part of this cohort.
expand the reach of
I
those
did that
games.
especially
Now,
for Bloodborne
what
too.
we've
I went
seen
out and bought a
recently
PS4. It's my
basically
Bloodborne
goes
machine.
Past that, it goes a little
That's it.
bit
That's all I got
further.
for it.
So
Got it
it's not
for.
refreshed versions
Yeah,
of
I
old
literally
games,
have played
it's
like maybe 2
genuinely
games on
new
it.
content that is built for games that can be a decade old. Now, this year alone, we got the likes of, say, a surprise reveal of the new Warlock class for Diablo 2 Resurrected. That's the first character
That's
that game's
insane.
had in 25 years. Now,
That's insane.
told
But this is just
Eurogamer they may do more in the
completely
future,
insane.
though they were careful to add, quote, "We don't want to mess up the Mona Lisa." Fair enough. But there's another company
True.
who's also doing it, and that is Creative Assembly. They appointed a back catalog product owner. Quite the job role, but I actually think it's pretty cool. They're a person whose sole job is to support and update older games, and they're starting it off with Rome 2. And of course, if you take a look
I have Rome 2 Total War. That's awesome.
at Steam, you can see
Man.
that Rome 2 is still a very, very frequently played game. It makes sense to update it. It makes sense to maybe make content for it. Now, of course, there's a game
Holy
that's went
shit.
further than most, and that's Age of
Are we back? Are we so
Empires 2.
back?
It's getting multiple new DLCs every year. There's brand new campaigns, new factions.
Oh yeah, no, the AoE 2 updates have been like insane. Like they have put so much life into this community that even I get third partied by this community. I have AoE 2 right now. I've played it a little bit. I started getting recommended these videos just completely out of the blue from a bunch of AoE 2 content creators, and I'll watch them occasionally. I don't play the game, but it's nice to see.
Keeps expanding, and the way they do the campaigns, at least for some of them, is way more involved than what's shipped to the base game. But when you look at all of these, there's something specific that you notice, and it's that they're all franchises. They're all franchises
True. I can see that,
more
yeah.
often than not, have new games. But even
Also, I would make the assertion that they're probably what is it? They're probably franchises in which the ownership is not in dispute, because a lot of older games, sometimes their companies go under, their publishers go under, they change hands. The rights to the game gets fragmented so much that you don't know who actually owns the game. So that could be another issue that's causing them not to be able to update
those new
or
games
curate
exist,
it.
the companies are going back and they're meeting
I could
the
see that being a
demands of people
problem.
who are still playing the old games. That's a bit weird, because usually when a company moves on to its next thing, if you
They
prefer
ignore-
the thing that
yeah,
you've
they ignore
currently
the old
got,
one.
you just feel dropped like a rock. That seems to be changing, and I think that might be a good thing. The big question then is, how big is the demand for things like this? It's big enough that the lead producer on Diablo 2 said it rather plainly. Quote, "We still have millions of people who play Diablo 2. Millions of them." So he pretty heavily emphasized saying millions again. Some audiences simply won't move on, not to D3, not to D4, and if you look at Total War and Steam, you really see the same thing.
I was like that with a couple of games. Some games had sequels come out and I was just like, I hate these sequels, and I just stayed on the original
There's
game.
healthy player counts on Medieval 2 right now in 2026. And
That's
for the longest
awesome.
time, that's actually been
I can't wait for this new was it the Chronicle game coming out?
fundamental
Oh my
issue
god.
for the games industry.
That looks so good.
And in trying to get around that issue for a very long time, Creative Assembly kind of ended up torching their reputation. Now, there's some stats to this that honestly are a bit spooky, right? This is the Steam replay data for 2025. We see that 40% of all PC playtime that year went to games that are older than 8 years.
Wow, imagine how that works.
And this industry, 8's a big number. It's not just 1 or 2 year out-of-date games. No, it's 8.
Imagine.
And another 44% sat in the 1 through 7 year range. That's not a small number. And in many cases, it's because the companies haven't convinced you to move on. And you know what? Yesterday, I was playing Shogun 2 Total War. It's one of my favorite games. There hasn't really been one that hits the way that it does since. And to be honest with you,
I
if
heard
they
this
made
one was
another
really good.
expansion for it, I'd absolutely buy the damn thing. This stuff doesn't mean that new games are worse. It just means that for some people, going back to, say, D2 or Witcher 3,
I don't know. I think that there's pretty good anecdotal evidence to show that I think new games are worse.
is kind of like...
And not in a quantifiable way, because objectively you can look at it and say they are in some way better, but through the spirit of what a game is, I feel like they are worse. They're just spiritually aren't the same
queuing
thing.
up with friends for the umpteenth time, right? You kind of already know what you want out of the experience, so you just go to that experience and get it, rather than risking a new thing. So for the companies involved, this is a way to reach players who are more than a decade in the past, of their own volition and choice, as I am with, say, Total War Shogun 2, but it lets the companies keep us as monthly active users on their own metrics, and maybe make some more money out of us, rather than just letting us drift away as audience members, and of course from our perspective, them having no incentive to invest in the games that we do actually love. Now obviously, this is not a foolproof process. I mean, think about the StarCraft 2 changes. You could almost call it a StarCraft 2.5 or something like that. It's very different from base Legacy of the Void. And if Blizzard's execution of all this stuff doesn't work in practice, especially once the meta develops with the best players, that could be kind of chaotic. For some other games, what if an update breaks mods from a creator who's no longer maintaining them?
Oh, that's going to totally break mods. Like, that's going to be really bad.
I mean, we've just seen CD Projekt Red deal with their own version of this, where they raised Witcher 3's minimum specs to require Windows 11 or SSDs. You can still run it on older hardware, but basically, in moving those requirements, they're officially no longer promising that the game will work on the
they're also cutting. So I wonder how much of this is a response to stop killing games. Actually, like, now that I'm kind of like parsing through it, it could be an interesting down the line response to it. Where obviously these have been in development probably for at least a couple of years at this point, because you don't just pump out an update like that, just period. But it could also be a response to stop killing games so that they they require themselves to continue to support a game. I don't know. It'd be interesting.
Older machines. So there is
might leave, that's fine.
For this to
no
go
worries.
Up,
I don't mind when people stop by, drop in, drop out.
Incentive. I mean, the weekend after Songs of the Past's announcement, Witcher 3 Steam player count spiked to the highest it's been
No
since
hard
February.
feelings. I get it. People have lives.
Some of that will translate to sales, and when the expansion actually does launch, there'll be a whole new audience hearing about the franchise for the first time. And honestly, I think CD Projekt Red are going to make a shitload of money in that. And in a roundabout way, that'll be good.
No, really, I think they are going to make a shitload of money. Like, I'm going to be completely honest. Like, this is like, you want to make money, give people what they want. Imagine how that works. You provide something that people want, and they will line up to give you their money. Wow. Complete brain burst.
For you. And I say that because there are secondary effects to all of this. And a good few of them will pay off for everyone who hasn't been playing the same game for a decade. Witcher 3 getting an expansion means that Witcher 4 and Witcher 1 Remake are going to be better games. And I think that's a very easy claim to make, and here's how it works. The team building Songs of the Past are called Fool's Theory. They're an ex-CD Projekt Red dev-led studio, and they're also building the remake under CD Projekt Red's guidance. So what that basically means is Fool's Theory ships a product at CDPR's expected quality level. They, in doing that, get to learn, they get to test their skills. CD Projekt Red gets a healthy influx of cash. But most importantly, they get to do the single most important thing before a new game launches: building up hype. CD Projekt Red are planning to release...
I think they need to build up that hype too, by the way. Like, I don't think that this game's going to land nearly where they want it to be. I think they're probably hedging their bets, trying to bring as many people in as possible that might even tangentially buy it.
The Witcher 4 at some point from 2027.
Ooh, I think they might be in trouble.
It's more than a decade after Witcher 3, and it'll be the first of 3 Witcher games that'll be coming in 6 years. So they really need people to care about that franchise again. They need some reason for you to come along, and let's be real, the Witcher TV show very much has abandoned doing that.
Yep.
So it's pretty good for them.
That
and
was a big flopperoo
as well. You see, Star 2 never stopped getting updates. They did slow down, like, humongously, but there's an obvious reason why these changes are happening now and why they're so large. And that's that all evidence is pointing towards something happening with StarCraft at this year's BlizzCon. And to summarize the key bits, there's been a bidding process that ended up seeing Nexon win the rights to a new StarCraft game, and
oh, Nexon won the rights to a no StarCraft game? What? Okay.
Then there's the StarCraft shooter project within Blizzard that Jason Schreier flagged while promoting his book on Blizzard. And from everything that we know, that game is still very much in development. But at the risk of stating the obvious, a big shooter project maybe won't appeal to StarCraft 2's core.
No, but it'll appeal to people who like shooters. I mean, who knows? Maybe that'll get more people into the franchise. Maybe it's unlikely, but I mean, at least it's a new game that, you know, it seems like people have been asking for. I mean, I remember when they originally had that in development and canceled it, and everybody was a lot of people were unhappy about the cancellation.
Love RTSs, right? So what'll happen when those games get revealed and they don't appeal to those players? Well, the answer now would be that the people at Blizzard have clearly thought about that problem. And because of patches like this one, the RTS players still get to feel seen. They still get to feel like their game matters enough.
Man, imagine how that works.
Angry, they're less likely to generate bad press for something that's new. And hell, they might even consider the new thing. Because even if it's not completely up their alley, the company just treated them reasonably. So they'll be more ready to do the same.
Yep.
If they don't, that's actually going to be okay as well.
It's surprising. Give the people what they want and they react positively. Wow, it's just we're relearning like reciprocal actions.
And that's where the real industry change here becomes clear. With this, the games industry is finally embracing a group of players that's massive and has been underappreciated. And that's those of us who don't buy new games. The new business model then is to treat them as a market in their own right, not trying to convince them to move on, just trying to convince them to, maybe buy that new Witcher expansion, which will still add to the company's bottom line. It's not quite live service for old games. It's not quite games designed to run forever with constant monetization, but I think it's learning lessons from that model in a way that
Again, I can't help but think that this is a down the line effect of people actually finally realizing that nobody wants the garbage that they're pumping out anymore. Like, I can't see a world in which that's not the case. Because like people have been very vocal, like we don't want what you're giving us.
Actually feels like it's
we want
for us as
more of what
and
you've already
in
given
service
us.
Of one simple acknowledgement. People who like video games love the experiences they've had with video games, which will almost always be ones that have happened in the past, right? As much as I could get hype for a new game, there are so many games where I just know I'm going to get what I want from it, like with Shogun 2. And now, thanks to the convergence of so many different factors in games production,
give me more of this.
Changed, even distribution,
TLDR.
it can now happen. We can now be offered more product for things that we already like. Not something new, but rather something more. Please, Creative Assembly, give me another Shogun 2 expansion, and I'd love to hear what your equivalent would be for the games that you love. So, a rare bit of
I've got
good
a lot
news,
of that,
and
but
maybe just the type of news that we need in
none
an
that
industry
come to mind
that is
immediately.
struggling more and more and more. And that's why you should watch this video next, because the Romeros have been warning that as people who saw the games crash of the 80s, the legendary one, right now, they feel what's currently happening within games funding actually feels worse.
Man, who would have thought?
You can learn about it in this video next.
It's not like everybody was warning against the games crash. Oh, man. Anyway, I definitely think that it's interesting that more and more people want to see, what is it called? That want to see older games come back. Like, that is a sentiment that they have been articulating for at least half a decade at this point. Finally, the games industry has lurched itself in that direction. And, well, I guess it's good to see. All right, let's see what's going on in Endymion TV land over here with God of War Laufey. Oh my God, this is going to be a tragedy, isn't it? This didn't land well. You can have your opinions about it, but it didn't land well, and I don't think it's going to continue to land well. I think Sony overcooked with this one.
The State of Play happened recently. They showed some games,
unfortunately,
most of which I honestly wasn't really excited for, but there was one game that caught everybody's eye, which was
it was the final announcement of the night. This was supposed to be the best of the showcase, mind you.
The new God of War game. Well, I say God of War, but it doesn't actually star the God of War, so the name is already kind of misleading, and the internet has lost its mind over it.
Yep.
So are people vindicated in their opinion or not? Well, let's get into it. So you already know...
Remember, we had leaks that this was happening, like, at least 2 years ago.
Oh, that Laufey, that's...
And everybody was like, there's no way they're making a God of War like this.
Wife of Kratos,
and yet here we are.
Character of the new game, which takes place in the afterlife of the gods that is called the Everywhen. I guess I'll get the positives out of the way first, I guess. I like the idea of the Everywhen, that gods have somewhere to go that is separate from mortals. It adds a nice new layer to the entire God of War franchise and all that. It's cool because it means that technically Zeus, Ares, Athena, and then some could and probably are going to be somewhere in this Everywhen just, existing. And I can only imagine that we will definitely meet some of them at some point in this Lao Fei game, so that,
Maybe.
I guess,
Maybe,
at least
maybe.
is cool. The other positive is, yeah, the mixture of the mythologies. As we did see both Egyptian...
I don't know. Like, the problem is like, there was no focusing element of the mythology here. Like, it just was like, is it Hinduism? Is it Egyptian? Like, what am I looking at here?
and Tibetan mythological gods show up in the 20-minute demo, and yeah, they look cool. Again, I have no issue with God of War tackling or showcasing other mythologies at all. It's kind of the whole point. Of course, I welcome that. I want them to get weird
It's just
with
it
Show
mixed
me all the mythologies.
too much,
I'm game
I
for
think.
that.
I don't know.
And yeah, that's kind of the positives, because otherwise, well, let's get into the rest of it now. The obvious point of contention for many is Lao Fei herself. I gotta be real, calling this game God of War at all, it feels sort of wrong, because obviously it doesn't actually star Kratos. I know people will say it's called Lao Fei, but the game still obviously uses the God of War moniker because of brand recognition and SEO.
Right, they could have called it a God of War story.
Which I get that, but either way, I think it's becoming very clear that a vast majority of people who like God of War do not in fact want to play as anybody other than Kratos. Like,
yeah, because you're not coming to the game to play not God of War. You're coming to the game to play the character that you love, Kratos. Imagine how that works.
For example, right? Even in the 2018 game or Ragnarok, when you get forced to play as Atreus even there, like, I gotta be real, I wasn't feeling
Yeah, people weren't happy about that. I remember, now that I'm remembering that was definitely a point of contention. I remember that a lot of people were like, why am I playing this? Like, why would I be playing a God of War game not to play God of War the entire thing?
that. This isn't really a male or
It
female
wasn't a
thing.
big voice,
Atreus
but I
wasn't
remember
terrible
hearing
to play
rumblings of
as,
that.
But come on, to compare his moveset to Kratos, it didn't feel as interesting. That much was certain to me, at least. The bow was kind of whatever. Summoning the spirit animals, it just wasn't what I wanted, right? God of War is cool, because you're this big hulking dude with his blades of chaos or the Leviathan axe. You're just cutting down freaks left and right. That's the whole power fantasy of it. Yeah, I know people will say, well, the axe is Faye, and that's cool, good for her, but the axe is cool because it's in the hands of Kratos. That's sort of the point. The blades of chaos are also cool too, but if they were suddenly placed in the hands of somebody else, it wouldn't be
it's
as
just
cool,
like, it's not the same.
Everything is
It's
cool
not the same
because
game.
it's Kratos. In a lot of ways, God of War is to Kratos what Master Chief is to Halo. You know what I mean? Sure, yeah, Halo Reach and ODST were games where he didn't play as Chief, but for the most part, the reason why people like Halo is because of Master Chief. These characters and more, they're all tied directly.
Yeah, no, like, again, like I was saying, like everybody's saying, it's just like, it's not about anything other than the fact that they expected to play as Kratos. And as a secondary expectation, they expected to play as the next logical step of his son. Because that's the one that's going to be taking the mantle, I would assume, of the father's legacy. Imagine how that works. And yet, everybody who doesn't like the creative decision is going to be called every manner of name in the book, because there is no nuance in the world.
To their franchises for a reason. If The Legend of Zelda didn't star Link nor Zelda, but some other character, I think people would be confused because people want to play mostly as Link, you know? The same kind of goes for God of War. I personally want to play as Kratos for the most part. I'm not saying Lao Fei or Fei is a bad character. She isn't. But do I want to play as her over
A lot of people had a problem with this cube, by the way. I hope we're going to talk about the cube.
her husband? Not really, no.
Please
I think the
talk
only
about
other
the cube.
characters I would
Address
maybe
the
want to
elephant
play
in the
God of War
room.
Spin-off game, I guess, would be maybe Thor. Like, if Thor got a redemption arc after Ragnarok, now that we know an afterlife exists for the gods, and Thor kind of went on a journey of self-discovery and rediscovered himself and his purpose and all that.
I don't know anything
Because
about this.
obviously in
I haven't
Ragnarok,
played.
Thor is this hulking slob of a man, big
I haven't
beer
played
belly,
any of the
unkempt hair. He's clearly a
God of
shadow
War
of his
games.
former self. Like, that would be cool, because we would see someone like Thor find
I think
himself
I
again,
own the
become
first
worthy
two
of
on
Mjolnir,
PlayStation
and then
2.
become the God of Thunder. But that's the key.
Never played
there,
them,
right? I
though.
wouldn't want that game, even if it did exist, to be called God of War Thor or something. They should just lean into it and call it something like the God of Thunder, and that's just what it is now. I would have loved to see Thor work through his trauma, learn that he's more than just a monster and a weapon to be wielded by Odin, and you could have Thor confront the giants and the everyone that he slaughtered in the name of Odin and have him repent for it and grow and accept that he was being used. And then by the end, Thor's a changed man. He probably loses the gut, gets more fit before wielding Mjolnir. You can have Thor wielding giant two-hand swords and warhammers, and then when he gets Mjolnir again, it's like a a rebirth of sorts, and then you could have Thor go off on his own journey, escape the Everyone using Mjolnir, and then becoming this new staple spin-off character that people would actually want to follow, because we saw Thor fight Kratos in Ragnarok. The dude's a beast. Even in a weakened state, he's nuts. Like, I would have loved to see more of his character. I mean, maybe one day they could do that, but even then, if they ended up calling it God of War, it would still make no sense. It would still have...
Yeah, it would have to be something else. It would be like, because it's not Kratos. I like that design.
Backlash.
Goetic design right there.
Universe.
Kind of.
Because you're not the God of War in that instance, right? Now you're the God of Thunder. That would be a sick name, though, for a spinoff. I gotta be real. Besides Thor, maybe an aged up Atreus could work, but honestly, it still wouldn't fix the problem that Atreus is just, he's not as cool as Kratos. I'm sorry. He just isn't. And with Lao Fei, it's like, this is not God of War, right? Like, she's a giant. I know. She's not even technically a god of anything that I'm aware of. I know some people online were wondering, well, how does a giant make it into the realm of the gods anyways? One theory, I guess, is that giants maybe are just seen as equals to gods in terms of importance, therefore they go to the same place in the afterlife, which would mean that Faye could find her people in the Everyone place after Odin and Thor, one-tapped everybody. The other theory I saw online was that Lao Fei is shown having a splinter of that mask that Odin was freaking out about in Ragnarok lodged in her finger. And maybe that splinter gave her godlike power, so it mistakenly sent her someplace she wasn't meant to be. Or maybe the mask splinter is what poisoned her in the first place and led to her demise in the real world. I don't know, but either way, it doesn't change the fact that people just don't seem really that excited about playing as Lao Fei, right? That's kind of the point.
People don't seem excited for this game at all. Like, really, the only people who seem excited for it are people who probably aren't going to play the game anyway.
Because this is
typical.
No joke. Like, I'm pretty sure anyways, every major Sony first
like,
party
if I were
studio
Sony
game
right now, I'd be
some
looking at this
Nintendo
like shaking.
protagonist
I'd be
in
like,
that
man,
franchise, like God of War Horizon.
we had Concord, we have Marathon, we have High Guard. I guess that came out on multiple different platforms, but still, we have a bunch of other like games that are just not hitting the mark. I'd be looking at this like with another skeptical eye going like, dude, guys, we got to right the ship. Like, this is not working. Something's not working.
Last of Us, Ghost of, I guess, Yote, Ratchet and Clank even. I mean, it goes
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
Uncharted
Ghost of
2.
Yote
And I'm
didn't
sure
do
once
as
they
well
do
as they would
another
have
Uncharted
expected
game
either,
with
I bet.
Nathan's daughter, probably, the cycle will just continue that way. At first, it was like, okay, maybe if you have one female hero game, fine. But this has gotten to the point where if every major Sony franchise that isn't dormant for years, like a Resistance, I guess, is now pushing this pretty much like universally, I have to ask, like, what's going on? Like, it gets to a point where people could argue it's not by design, but at this point, especially with Lao Fei now, I mean,
well, if it's not by design, then fucking act like it.
Every single main franchise.
That would be the way that I would
entirely now for Sony at this
put
point.
it.
Even the Wolverine game has you playing as Jean Grey, who looks very middle-aged and weird in that
Bro,
game too.
that Wolverine game looked like I think people were being nice to it. It looked like such dog shit. I'm sorry, like, it looked like it was wrapped up in a nice package, but everything else about it looked like it was just not going to be the game. Because, like, that's supposed to sell you on PlayStations, right? No, that thing, I don't think that's going to be moving a single unit.
Like, I don't know, man. I just feel tired about it. It's like, how do I put this? You know what it's like? It's sort of like Star Wars, you know? There's a quote by Chris Gore of Film Threat from a while ago where Chris Gore said something along the lines of Disney's most costly mistake will be trying to turn Star Wars from a boy brand into a girl brand. And then you look at the absolute state of Disney right now and how poorly Star Wars is going for them. Like Mandalorian was trying to push a woman.
It's not going too well for them, is it?
Over the main character in season 3, which was so abysmal, it just tanked the movie.
Strange how that
obvious.
works.
And that kind of also proves Chris Gore right. And I think you could take that same mentality and idea and apply it to the Sony PlayStation's first party offerings. And
yeah,
it translates rather
I think
perfectly,
another interesting thing about it is like people, like the regular layman is actually fatigued with all this bullshit. And they don't know how to articulate that they are fatigued by it because of all the other social implications of just not liking the current thing, so to speak. And maybe they're afraid to admit it. Maybe they're afraid to articulate their opinion, but we are slowly breaking down that barrier where people are finally starting to say, I don't want this anymore. This is ridiculous. Get me something that's actually good, please.
It seems like at this point that Sony's just
Which is good.
fine with every single one of their franchises, for the most part, starring to some capacity leading women now. And I'm not saying there aren't female gamers. There are. But the reality is a brand like this is largely kept alive by male players. It just is what it is. Video games is mostly a male-dominated hobby, whether people want to say that or not. The same way the makeup industry should cater to women. Or why every clothing store that you go into pretty much has like a 75% share of the entire store targeted towards women over men. There's a reason for that, because women, of course...
As a man, I go into a clothing store, I say, where are the jeans? Okay, there we go, perfect. Where are the tees? Okay, right there, okay, perfect. Do I want something else? No, that's all I need. I just need, like, bare minimum dress, right? I don't care. Literally, if I have more than 25% of the store, it's too much choice. Because it doesn't matter. It's just like, I don't fucking care. I just need enough to, like, be dressed for the day.
buy more clothes than men. That's fine. They just do that. It's not bad or anything. It's just the truth. Yet what I've noticed for years now is how the space is meant for men, like games or certain franchises.
They're
just
being
can't
colonized.
be for men anymore, you know?
Yep.
Everything has to be changed because something men can't
It's got to be for everyone.
It's just kind of dumb, honestly.
Okay.
I said in a previous video about this Laufey game, this was before we knew what it was called or what it was going to be about, that I suggested that if they were going to make this game, it would probably be a good idea to just call it something else. Not main
Please address the cube. It's right there. Please address the cube.
title, subtitle, but just something else. Goddess of War wouldn't work because she's not a god of anything war related. I suggested God of Stories, as a stories part could be a one-size-fits-all term to tell other stories in the God of War universe. But the way that this is being positioned is this is God
they're putting on Kratos as a skin suit in order to try to trick people into buying it.
of War.
I'm being
I'm
harsh with the way in which I'm approaching this right here because I'm done with it.
But that's
I'm done lying about
that you're following in the
what it
story,
is, because they tell you exactly what they're trying to do with this.
Sony is not willing to allow the name God
So
of
if they're
War
going to
not
tell
be
me,
part
sure.
of the game because of, again, brand recognition and
The cube would like me to stop noticing. I can't. It's there. It's right in front of me. It in its angular, squarular glory.
SEO or search engine optimization.
I guess
Either way, it
cubular.
feels off. Then there's the other, I guess, characters in this game. So one is called Frank, who's voiced by
There we
Jack
go.
Wade in Laufey.
We're going to
his cube, and
we're
this
addressing it.
was another part of the game's reveal where I kind of just went, "What are we doing, man?"
I literally kind of like, I know that nobody can see it, probably nobody heard it, but when the cube was reviewed, I slouched in my chair so hard. I hurt my back essentially because I stretched it so far. I was just like, I melted. I was so fucking done. And not only that, but the introduction leading up to it was perfect because it was such a millennial writing trope like thing where they were just like constantly going back and forth, had no room to breathe. I was just like, shut the fuck up. Just shut up. Shut up. Everything doesn't have to be a quippy joke. Everything doesn't have to be not taken seriously. Like, shut up. Just shut up.
Okay, I get it, right? You need some companion.
And this really pissed me off because this is the skin suit part of it,
every
by the
Sony
way.
game now to speak to. But of all the things you could have
Like,
done,
I'm getting
that's what
third
we
party
went with.
pissed off
People try to
for God of
figure out
War
where this
fans.
cube even was from, like what mythology and all that, and nobody seems to know what it is. Some think that it's like a cosmic thing, like the Tesseract. Other thinks it's a reference to Dungeons and Dragons with a literal slime cube. Either
Imagine.
way, would it
It
be
doesn't
so
matter.
hard to
Why is
not
it in the
just find,
game?
some other godlike being to follow Laufey instead? Like at one point in the gameplay demo, Faye saves some bluish green godling looking thing. Like maybe that could have worked. I guess not. Then you have the other character in this game, which is named Rue, which is the purple ribbons on the sword that Laufey wields. I could be wrong, but I'm like 85% sure that sword is Excalibur. Why the Tibetan god is afraid of maybe Excalibur, no idea. But I will say I do like the idea of blending mythologies like this, although it would have been cool to have Kratos wield Excalibur, but I guess not anymore. I'm also going to guess that the Rue character, the purple ribbons I mean, is something to do with Asian mythology, since many Chinese swords have those tassel-like ornaments.
I ain't got no idea about that, but it's still just like, okay, I guess this is like, we can't give them a real companion. We got to give them an inanimate cube and ribbons. All right.
Attached to them. I mean, the actor playing Rue is also Asian, so I guess that was done on purpose probably. Because you got to tie actors to who they convey these days, right? It's got to be inclusive and all that. It's exhausting, I know. But either way, this game's reveal to me, it felt like Sony Santa Monica was
I literally literally rolled my eyes so hard. Like as soon as we started getting rolling, I was just like, not only was it the millennial writing, but it was like, okay, so this is like a gameplay review. Proceeds to show like 20 minutes of cutscenes and maybe 5 seconds of gameplay.
Really trying
like,
to force what
okay.
a God of War
Sure.
game is supposed to be, you know? Again, if it was called something else entirely, maybe people would be more open to it, but if your game is called what it is, people are going to expect a God of War. Honestly, if the next game was Kratos, and maybe he gets defeated by some insanely overpowered god from like Egypt or something, and then he got sent to the Everywhen, and Kratos has to find his way back to protect his people, yeah, absolutely. That'd be a really cool idea for a game. Kratos,
oh my god, he actually has mocap for the cube.
Fights in the demo. I mean, come on, Kratos would be staring that god in its multiple eyes, ready to fight. And you could have Kratos at the end return to the real world, fight that god that defeated him, now like super powered with new purpose. They could have even used the Everywhen and use its magical properties to DH Kratos or prolong his life even, so he's good to go for future games. But I guess that won't happen now. Sure, yes, we know there will be more Kratos games. We know this because Corey Balrog confirmed this in the director interview that they had around this game. They are also actively working on another Kratos adventure. Probably set in Egypt, so Sony is still committed to that, but I think if you have a series called God of War in general, people want to play as a god. Again,
I actually wonder how much damage this does to their brand too. Like, I know that people kind of like talk about that in like roundabout sort of ways, but having a hard number on like, which would be impossible because you'd have to like get people to self-report it, but having a hard number on people who say, I'm literally never going to touch another God of War game again because of this, I'd like to see what that number is.
Thor would have been the easiest pivot possible here. People would have
versus how many people are coming in.
I would have. Imagine the Leviathan Axe callback mechanic, but it's with Mjolnir. That would have been nuts, dude. Calling down lightning, wielding Thor's powers to do AoE damage on a bunch of dudes.
Because like,
crushing
I know there's a lot of people
power.
like me where like once they get burned by a company or like they get burned by some decision, they're just like, I'm never going to interact with this again. Like that happened with me with a lot of different companies where I'm just like, listen, I'm not going to engage with this company's products anymore. And sure, maybe that's to my detriment. Maybe I'm not as forgiving as I should be, but there are a lot of times where I'm just like, you wronged me once. I'm never like in general, in a company sense, I'm very much different about this with people in real life. But for companies, it's because of the way in which they treat it. I'm not going to interact with this game ever again. Like that's probably the reason why that is the reason why I will never buy a Destiny game, because of the way that Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 like provided their live service. It doesn't respect me as a player. So I, as a player, will not respect them as a company. I will never buy their products.
The raw lightning, like, God, that would have been sick. Asmongold, for example, responded to one user saying that people are just afraid of women. Here's what Asmongold said.
Asmongold mentioned,
shows it's pretty obvious, right? The blue is what you expect from the franchise, but when you
this is so true. This is what people are feeling. This is the feeling. Huge W.
Sit down and play it. The blue is now red. Yeah, you've been swindled. That's the idea. It's not that people don't
no
want
one
to play
ever
as
said
women.
that.
Again, Stellar Blade sold well. The Resident Evil games have women in them from the beginning.
Exactly.
Bayonetta, Lara Croft.
I played through all of Stellar Blade. Was it a great game? It was okay. Like, would I consider it to be like one of the best games ever released? No. But within the context of when it released, man, that game was like a 7, 8 out of 10. Because everything else that was coming out didn't respect me. Everything else that was coming out hated me. And boom, imagine you treat your players like actual players and you actually respect the time that they put into a game. You got a great game on your hands. Imagine how that works.
I'll use an example in the other direction to explain to the people who think that Faye is a good idea so that they kind of understand where people are coming from. So let's go look at the new Tomb Raider game that got announced. Also, it's the same state of play, right? A remake of the first game, Atlantis and all that. So everybody who...
Which, by the way, don't trust them. This has the potential to be absolute poopy dog water dog shit.
Tomb Raider plays that series.
I don't trust them.
Well, they want to be Lara Croft. That's the point. You do not want to play Tomb Raider if suddenly a game exists where you are some other random Tomb Raider person. But the new character now still raids Tomb, as they'll say, so it's still Tomb Raider. No, it doesn't matter. The reason why you want to play Tomb Raider is
because you like Lara Croft.
Tomb Raider. And by the way, this would be equally as stupid if, say, a new Tomb Raider game existed and they made a pivot and suddenly a man was playable over Lara. No, I wouldn't want that either. I don't want to play as a man in the Tomb Raider franchise. I don't want some guy taking over what that is.
Exactly.
Tomb Raider is unique, as is God of War, because you respect the...
I don't want to play a different character. Don't force me to play a different
that
character.
it came from. Tomb
Wow,
Raider,
it's that
yeah,
simple.
It's a female-led franchise. Cool, no problem with that. I love that. So again, may I ask, why does God of War need to have female-led games then? You see what I mean? I know some people will think, oh, it's misogynistic, but it really isn't. People just don't want to buy and play something that is set in a franchise for someone else. Again, a lot of this could have been mitigated if it was just named something else entirely, but it's the principle of what's going on that is causing the problems, and that's the point. It's as Asmongold said, right? You buy a blue game, but it's red. Why can't the blue game be blue and the red game be red? Why do you have to keep turning things into other things they don't need to be is the point. It's like a Bayonetta game getting announced or a Stellar...
And the worst part is there needs to be an addendum to that little comic is when they say inevitably, I don't like red, the addendum should be, why are you such a XYZ insert pejorative here?
Blade sequel, and then Shift Up goes, enough of
It's like,
Eve and her
okay.
curves. We're done with Eve.
Like
Now
I said,
you're gonna...
for the people who are like that, who are just like, you're XYZ or something like that, like, I'm at the point in my life where I'm just gonna say, yeah, you've created your monster. I'll be your monster. I don't care. Because everything that you say about me means nothing. So I'm just going to own it. I'm going to be like, all right, cool. Yeah, if that's what you want to call me, sure, I'll be that. Why not?
play as
Because I think my actions speak a lot more louder than the hollow words of some internet asshole.
Yeah, I'm a guy. I know I'm not a woman, but is it so hard to understand that people like things because of who those games are about? Like, if I sat down to watch Spider-Man Brand New Day and suddenly the whole movie's about Spider-Gwen, and this is a very similar reason to why people were mad about Last of Us. We wanted to play as Joel. We don't mind playing as Ellie. We know Ellie is playable in the first game for a little bit, but we liked Last of Us because we wanted to play as Joel. Why? Because Joel is cool. We like Joel. We like the idea of the grizzled smuggler guy being the playable character. Why is that not allowed? Why is that bad to say or feel? Like, it's that's not misogynistic. So when I play God of War, I'm not saying that I hate Lao Fei or I don't want her to exist. No. I get it. She's very important to the story. The entire 2018 game is
No, I just want to play Kratos.
Kratos and Atreus following the
It's that
path
simple.
Lao Fei set for them. I get that. Yes, I understand that Fei's instructions in the beginning of 2018 with Kratos cutting down the handprint tree was to reveal their location to Baldur and Odin and Thor, who, by the way, Baldur then immediately shows up following Kratos doing what Fei instructed him to do. Look, I get all of that. I totally understand that Fei's master plan is to enact Ragnarok and have Kratos take down Odin and become the god of hope. Nobody's denying any of these things, but the point of the matter is that people want to be the god of war in a game that is titled God of War. That's really all it is. And the fact that these very simple principles cannot be followed is why you're having the backlash.
That they refuse to be
Interesting
followed.
How when it comes to female-led
Like, not even that they're
franchises,
not being
every
followed.
company
It's that, like,
and
these
developer
people
under the sun,
refuse to
they just
follow
seem to
them.
understand this completely.
And
Female-led
it's very
franchise, female
thinly
main
veiled
characters,
as
yeah,
to
we won't change
why.
that 'cause that
Like,
makes
people
sense.
aren't
As soon as it's a
stupid. I
male
mean,
protagonist-led franchise, well,
statistically
come
they
on.
are
Why are you
nowadays,
mad that
but
a woman is
at
the
least in
lead?
these,
What are you,
people
an
can generally
incel?
tell
No,
when they're
we're
being
not.
lied
Plenty of
to.
people who think this is lame have wives and girlfriends. We just want to play the God of War in the God of War game. Why is that so hard to understand? It's why nobody complained when Spider-Man Miles Morales was named Miles Morales, because you played Miles Morales. But people
Imagine.
did complain when you bought Spider-Man 2, which should have Peter saving the day and being the hero, but here comes Miles saving the day in a game not called Miles Morales. But they're both Spider-Man, they'll say. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know the sequel to Spider-Man, which starred Spider-Man, needed Miles Morales to save the day for him. If I wanted the game where Miles
Yeah, I
saves
remember
the
this
day,
was a
I
huge
would've
problem
played the
too.
game called Miles
Problem
Morales
as in, like,
then. How's it
people
so hard
were
to understand?
unhappy with the
Some may think
direction
you're
of
being
this.
rigid, but it really isn't. We already figured out how to do this. You just make spin-offs. You name it something else. It's fine. But when you do this, the backlash is not surprising for a reason. Again, I think the idea of the game is interesting. The everywhen and the afterlife and all that, I mean. Absolutely. That seems very cool to explore for many, many reasons. Don't get me wrong there at all. It's just that I wish I got to explore that place as the God of War, you know? Because you would have had Kratos there meeting up with the Greek gods that he slaughtered years ago.
That would have been a great reunion. They'd be like, hey, how's it going, guys? You killed me, yeah?
Imagine the meeting, like, dude, between
No hard
Kratos
feelings,
and
right?
Ares, all those years and multiple games removed, like how that would have gone down. Ares would have resented Kratos because he stole his godhood in the first game, and now they're meeting after everything that has happened in this new realm. Like, the tension, the writing, you could just feel that off the page. Or Kratos running into Athena and Zeus Realizing that Kratos effectively doomed the Greek part of the world in the name of revenge. But since this is post-Ragnarok, the Kratos now is a different man. And like, how would that conversation go between those men? Would it be a meeting of malicious intent? Or would it have been like a somber affair? Like, you see what I mean? That is the reason why people like playing as Kratos. It's not because he's just some guy. They want to play as him because the dude has history. And you can go ahead and make the idea of here's this other realm where basically everybody Kratos unceremoniously ended is like hanging out in their own afterlife right now. Yet Kratos is just nowhere to be found to interact with these people. Like, that just feels like a missed opportunity to me. It would be like Mary Jane going into the afterlife to meet Uncle Ben and Aunt May, but like Peter's still on Earth. Like, it would be interesting, I guess, kind of. But would it be more cool and poignant to see Peter talking to Uncle Ben after all he did is Spider-Man? Yeah, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
It just kind of
100%.
feels like we're twisting things in any which way we can to force another male franchise to star another woman. Again, it would be no problem if this just happened maybe
and the reason,
one time, right?
again,
it just keeps
like, you can try to make the argument that it's a standalone complex where all these studios are just doing it. I think you have a reasonable argument for that, right? Because if you're paying attention to the way that people just generally have been piloting the games industry, a lot of these people share similar opinions about social and political issues, which is, it's fine. Like, that's okay, whatever. People are free to disagree with you. The problem is people have been seeing it as a pattern, warning people that it is a pattern that is happening, and then people are disregarding them because they have just enough plausible deniability to say that there's not like a major massive group that's orienting the games space in this direction. Sure, maybe you're right about that, but also don't piss on me and tell me it's raining. It's been happening to every major franchise, and we can see it. Like, I'm not dumb. People aren't dumb for seeing it. At least have some amount of ability to re-examine, take like a step away and examine from an outside perspective what's been happening.
I get so much hate for saying this about, like, say, Ghost of Yotei, but seriously, like, was I really wrong in retrospect? Why does every Sony franchise need to do the same thing now? There's no way that everyone who works in first party at Sony just happened to go, yeah, we're doing women-only stuff now without it being some weird calculated move on their part. I said this on Twitter, but the push for female protagonists in the past decade or so, it is the new bald-headed Space Marine from the early 2000s. It really is. Like, back then, so many games starred some guy with a shaved head or just short hair and a suit or of like armor just shooting stuff. Mass Effect, Gears of War, so many shovelware games that came out then, even Halo, Spec Ops, The Line, GTA 4.
I definitely remember that.
Main character. Call of Duty games even, it got a little bit too much, but this seems like an overcorrection in the opposite direction. Now instead every game stars a woman. Oh, please play Ghost of Yotei. Now play Laufey. Please look forward to Intergalactic, another female-led game. But again, it just seems like an overcorrection.
Intergalactic is going to bomb so hard.
Right? Like, it's
I don't think anybody's going to be excited for that.
Point this out. It's just what it is. It's kind of boring. I guarantee you at this point, whenever if a new Infamous game were to get made now, I would bet money it stars a woman too. And the same reaction will happen again. And people will go, oh, you hate women. No. But am I kind of tired that every franchise I like is forcing a female protagonist? Kind of, yeah. Again, I respect the female-led franchises. I'm not over here saying that Horizon Zero Dawn's franchise, whatever, has to star a man one day. Or that Final Fantasy VI should be remade and we should turn Terra into a guy. I'm not saying that. It's just, it's so weird that men are meant to be respectful and understanding of female-led franchises and stuff, and we totally get that and we're fine with it, and we even play those games.
But there's no turnabout. When
it comes to having that same level of respect and understanding set our way in return, now it's a problem. It just can't be how it goes, man. It really can't. This is not a battle of misogyny. This is just basic levels of, can we get the thing that we signed up for, and can we stop trying to turn everything from a male hobby to a female one, as Chris Gore said? Like, here's the ex-Activision Blizzard CEO Mike Ybarra, who said that he was even confused by the reveal of Laufey. And he flat out states that he couldn't help but wonder what he was even seeing. And look, I criticize this guy.
Not sure about the new God of War. Weird take for the IP. Time will tell. But I'm with David Scott Jaffe, the guy who created Gears of War, or God of War, Gears of War, oh my God, on my early opinions from the announced asset. I couldn't help but wonder what I was even seeing. Hope I am wrong. Love the IP. Well, as you said, only time will tell. But there is a reason why we have a word for people who see into the future. They are called prophets. And in this case, I don't think the prophets are
a
wrong.
lot. But, you know, kudos. He's at least willing to understand from a business perspective, this is not really the move to make right now. Had this game existed years ago, maybe people would be more receptive to like what's going on.
Yeah, maybe.
But I think at this
But
point,
within
with
the
how often
context,
this
oh my
just
God,
keeps
dude.
happening, all you really have is apathy and exhaustion at these announcements now. Like, we are just kind of tired of it. Tired of being told that we need to be respectful to this. And if Tomb Raider needs to star Lara Croft, why is it wrong to want Kratos to be in his games? That's really what this all comes down to. And again, people don't even want like Atreus to be the main character in God of War even. And like, again, he's a straight white male and all that too, right? Which kind of tells you this doesn't really come down to the fact that it needs to star another man or something. It's just that like we just want to be Kratos. That's all it really is. And the same people who will call you an incel or a woman hater when I'm not really either.
I don't go to the candy store to buy a salad.
Girlfriend, like it's just
and I
tiring,
don't
man.
go
It's
to the
just like every
salad store to
franchise
buy
I
a
like.
to
Doesn't
buy a
seem to care
candy.
about their audience anymore. We just need to keep making things for
Wow,
everyone
imagine
who
how
are the
that
main
works.
Majority of the people who bought these games in the first place. And I guess what Chris Gore said really is what will keep happening. If Sony wants to keep turning their male-dominated franchises into these female-led ones instead, it's going to be a costly mistake. But
It's a bold strategy, Cotton.
I don't really
Very bold.
anyways, because the progress, I guess, is worth the damage to them. That's what it comes down to. No one is saying you can't have female-led games. All we're saying is, if you want the respect of like the male players are apparently required to give to everyone, it is
Maybe you should
baffling
give
and
some
insulting that it doesn't seem to be
reciprocity.
something that these same players are allowed to receive, right? I
Yeah.
guess now I'm going to ask you, what do you think about all of this? Is Laufey a good or a bad idea? Let me know. There's so much more to explore here, so I'll see if I can go into
I mean, I'm going to make my opinion very apparent again. Whatever they want to call me, I'll accept it. I don't care. This game looks like dog shit.
a more like deep end on this topic in a
For
future
many
video, but
different
now,
reasons.
let me know if that's something that you want. Thanks for being here. Subscribe if you want to. See you next time.
See you next time, Endymion. I think it's starting to get a little late. Oh my god, look at the time. It is starting to get a little late. Well, I think with that, that's probably where we're going to end it for the night. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. And I hope everybody has a great night. I will see everybody tomorrow for, what do we got on the schedule? Pretty sure it's Night Rain, but I might change that a little bit. Yeah, we got Night Rain and Vampire Crawlers. We might play Forbidden Solitaire. I don't know. We'll have to see where we're at. I'll have to see how I'm feeling. I have to get around, get some breakfast in me, lounge around a little bit, see what's coming. But we're going to definitely be playing games tomorrow. No more, I swear, no more game shows. We're all done with those. Oh my god, those were a fucking nightmare to get through. Anyway, have a good night, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.